Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandro. With me is the Reformed Orthodox Rabbi.
Bill Clinton. Hey, everybody, how's it going?
How you doing, Paul? That's what I told you yesterday when we were playing. That's the one that
That's beautiful.
saving.
All right. Oh man, for anybody that doesn't know, we'll explain it later.
Oh yes. How's life, Paul? You just came back from another vacation.
It wasn't a vacation. It was technically a business trip, though I did enjoy myself quite a bit. I went up to Asheville, North Carolina, to talk about some things and see some people, and it was awesome. But it was also very tiring, and I did not sleep very much.
Oh yeah, it's like if anyone could like check our chats and just sending us your odyssey of trying to fly over there and even flying back, and being separated from your wife. That was quite a journey, huh?
That was a journey. Oh my goodness, you could make a movie about it. But yeah, needless to say, Charlotte Airport sucks.
Really?
Yeah, that's why what happened is we were flying to a smaller airport from there, and because they had some kind of slight delay, they just said, yeah, we're just gonna like delay it all the way back to 6 a.m. the next day. And that was not a good thing. So my wife had to drive with our rental car back to pick me up, and then drive another 2 hours.
So I was gonna ask, like, how long did she have to drive to go pick you up and then drive back?
For her, in total, was 4 hours.
Not too bad, all things considered. I've done 18-hour
at midnight
drives. Okay, that's bad. Then at midnight, that's bad.
Through hairpin turns of very foggy mountains. She threw up 3 times in the process of motion sickness, because we don't do that whole mountain thing as much. And when you don't have any visibility, I guess it was really affecting her. So she was a freaking trooper though. So blessings to her for sure, getting me out of there. Anyway, that was my weekend, and now we're back to all of this.
Yes. To the second to last episode of the year, because just to kind of like discuss about it a little bit. Last episode, we said that was the second to last episode. That then I looked at the episode counts, and if this had been our last episode, it would have ended on a 49 episodes. So we were like, you know what? We're actually gonna do a 50 to close out a 50 run for this year at the X Button. So now, this will be the last traditional episode of the show for this year, because the next episode is gonna be our year in review, not Game of the Year. Game of the Year is when we come back. So year in review, we're gonna go like reminisce what 2022 was for games. So enough of that, because this is the X Button podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Thursdays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find all links and the RSS feed at anchor.fm/escape-gaming. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. And eventually I'm going to be linking the podcast appearance that I mentioned in the last episode. I still haven't gotten a link for that. So, Paul, this time I'm going to start us with what we've been playing, because we did play 2 things that we can kind of correlate, and I played 2 other ones that you haven't. So I can just start off. Somehow something possessed me to go back to Bloodborne.
I want to get some knowledge from you. You've played it before.
One time.
Right?
One time.
Okay. And that was the only time you've ever played it?
Only time.
All the way through. Have you ever retried it?
Many times.
Okay, and then you just only once you finished, though?
Yes, only once I beaten it. And it was like, I started it in March 2015, and I finished it in December 2016. Because this was a game that I was always making progress. I would get stuck. Another game would come out, and then I would start like playing around. It would never be a game that I would have my breakthrough all the time, but I would never commit. I would just play other stuff. So that's why it took me so long to beat. And when I initially beat it, I didn't fight the final boss, because I picked the first choice, which is like end the nightmare, and then you get beheaded, and that starts you out. I was like, well, that was anticlimactic. That's what I thought back then. But then this time around, back earlier this year, I had started it around that time where I was all in on Souls games. Around that time when Elden Ring came out, and I went through Dark Souls 1, did Dark Souls 3 also, did Sekiro, Demon Souls, all of that. Like, I was dabbling in all of them. And I also dabbled into Bloodborne again, and I had only played until Father Gascoigne. I beat him, but that's kind of where I stopped. And after a certain game won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, I kind of got into like the Souls mood, because when something wins, that tends to kind of like put you in the mood. But I was like, I don't want to like really try Elden Ring right now, kind of want to save it a little bit for later for that one. And I was like, I'll go back to Bloodborne because I know I always said that's probably the one I have liked the most, but also because it was the first one I ever beat back then. What a journey going back to Bloodborne, now understanding how Souls games work. And literally in the span of 2 days, I managed to beat it. And that felt really good because I was like, man, this was a game that took me a year plus to beat. Yep. And now I can literally go back to it and can do it in like 2 or 3 days. And things that I had thought were harder before were much easier. One boss remained equally as hard as it was when I first tried it back then. But unlike the last time where I had a guy from my floor at college come into my room to beat him for me because I just couldn't do it. Rom the spider.
The vacuous.
The vacuous spider. This time I managed to beat it because this time I had the electric rod.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, yeah. And that's basically that game's katana. Like electrifying everything. That game basically gives you kind of like the same amount of like DPS that I associated with katana play with my with my Dark Souls / Elden Ring playthroughs, and that was the only time I beat him. Then this time around I got a sniff of this whole place called Canehurst Castle. I had not known that was even a thing. And then I was listening to like a 2021 definitive spoiler cast about Bloodborne, and I started listening to it while I was playing, and then they kind of mentioned Canehurst. I was like, what is that? And then they mentioned this thing that it's a secret thing that you find an invitation at the clinic that you visit, that you can revisit, which is when you start, but you can kind of like get through it if you go through the underground of the Forbidden Woods to climb up, and then you go into that clinic, and then you can find like a weird nurse that is like a hunter that you can fight. Yep. And then in that other place, that's where you find that invitation, and then you go back to like that weird kind of like that weird town where you find the witches of Henwick. Just outside of there's like a big pillar that if you have the invitation, then that cart horse just comes and picks you up and takes you to this like Castlevania ass castle that literally made me fall in love with that game even more, because I was like, wow.
Oh yeah.
It's like when I first played this, I didn't even know like what the right process of mind was to play a Souls game, and now being able to see like how such intricate details of the detailed places are hidden, tucked away. And I would even say like something like even Millennia and Elden Ring. Yep. It's built kind of like in that same idea. You can totally finish that game without ever going.
It is so out of the way that you have to actively look for it.
Yeah.
Because I remember having to go down the spire, hunting everything in like the blood lakes or whatever to find her. It was ridiculous. So I'm really glad that you got to go back through all that, because Bloodborne, I think, without Elden Ring now, that was my favorite From Software game by far.
I think it still is for me, even with Elden Ring, because I think the vibe of Bloodborne is just so unique. It is one of the most terrifying games like throughout, in its atmosphere and character design. Like I had forgotten how startling it is to just see the amygdalas once like the nightmare is like eliminated after you feel gore, and that massive
like once you get high enough insight or whatever they call it, to actually view them as well, because you can go to a point where if you don't have enough of that, you don't see them at all.
Yeah.
Even if you beat it.
Insight. The thing is insight.
Yeah.
And our fellow friend Duncan, they told me to whatchamacallit, that the only way to see all those monsters early on before you break the nightmare was to have at least 20 plus insight. The problem of having that much insight is that it makes your game way harder. So I was always trying to keep my insight relatively low, because it would pop enemies that weren't there before, I remember back in the day. So I didn't want to bother with that. But
it's such a cool like passive concept to be like, well, do you want it harder? Do you want it easier? But it's like literally the better you are at perceiving the nightmare around you, the more the nightmare manifests itself. That's such a cool idea. And I don't know if you know anything about the YouTuber Vatsy Vidya. He's the guy that does all of the documentaries essentially.
Yeah, I watched it after I beat Bloodborne.
I eat those up, and I think my favorite are from Bloodborne, where he goes so deep into like reading descriptions on items that give you more about a character's storyline than what you even see when you play it. And especially because you constantly miss little details about that, because you need to know when to go back to talk to a certain character and stuff like that. That's so easy to miss.
By the way, you know the Alfred storyline, right?
I don't remember who was he?
So Alfred is a knight that you meet from like the Holy Church that's trying to get into Canehurst.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
and
The
then if you
guy that brutalizes homegirl.
yes. So I was trying to do that because while I was playing, we had just played Destiny 2 with Duchess.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And then Duchess was like coaching me because at that time I was also going through Canehurst, and the boss fight in that place is insanely hard. But as Duchess was coaching me, uh, I realized that that boss was basically the template for what Margot, the first boss that you fight in Elden Ring, is. Same kind of attack patterns and all of that, and that really clicked with my mind, especially when Duchess was like, be patient, to get 1 or 2 hits in, wait until that king like sends all his attacks. Yeah, and then when I got into that mindset, it's like, yeah, this is like, Souls games are about patience. If you're trying to, because I ran into that mentality when I saw like that long health, I would try to wail at enemies as fast as I can to just get the thing done. But some of those Souls games is like reward you for the patience of reading the boss, which in Bloodborne I feel it's way easier to read. There are enemies in Elden Ring that have way too many attacks that are a little harder to properly read. We definitely talked about that. So going back to that, kind of like in the same way where Dark Souls 1 clicked so much with me with the easy pattern recognition that I recognized there, getting to beat him while I was still in that Discord call, it was so cool. And then Duchess was guiding me to the Alfred quest. So like, okay, just go to the right of where you see that queen from the Vile Bloods, grab those summons, and now go look for Alfred. And I went to look for Alfred. And while I was doing the dialogue with him, I accidentally dropped my controller into my pillow, and it activated the triggers, and it attacked Alfred. So I completely screwed up that quest. So, and because once you attack an NPC, it's over. There's like no way. There's so, especially back then, there were like no there were no fail saves. So
that is the reason why I never finished was it the Old Blood, whatever the DLC was called, because there was that hunter with the bow and arrow, and I was running down the hallway at them, and I accidentally hit them, and because it was such a small area, I physically could not get past them into the rest of the DLC. So I'm so glad nowadays you can do things to like change the game state back before you aggroed a certain NPC.
Yeah.
And
By the way, I attempted to do the Old Hunters DLC this Sunday. Couldn't do it.
Hunters, that's what
it's
hard.
Super hard, especially because you find so many respawning hunters, and like in the main game where you kill a hunter, it's gone.
Yeah,
it's like a one clean, and you're not have to worry about those. There are those kinds of level of hunters in the Old Hunters DLC that are just normal enemies, and they can respawn.
Yeah.
So, and at least because I didn't look for a guide for it, I was trying to explore that version of the Hunter's Dream that felt very similar to, it was basically going through the cathedral ward of normal Yharnam, but now with like the nightmarish grayish brownish look. And couldn't find another lamp, so I was like, you know what, I was like, I'll just beat this game. I'm like, all hunters, at least I got a cool armor that I found just exploring, and some cool weapons out of it, like a big hammer that you can press L1 and does like a big fire thing, the big wheel that you can buy, that it's so,
I think my favorite from the DLC is the one that looks like it's like a big club, but then you hit L1, it becomes a whip.
Yeah.
And you could just kind of swing in front of you. It's got big old teeth on the end of it. Oh, I love that.
I feel what makes Bloodborne the cooler of the Souls games is that it has the Monster Hunter style, like transforming weapons.
It's so complex with different things you can do with each of them. Like every single one of the shoulder buttons does something different, including if you're in the middle of a different attack, and then you hit one of those others, and it'll kind of transform it mid-move, and it's so amazing. And I don't think I've ever seen another game without like maybe Monster Hunter that does that transforming weapon style anywhere close. So yeah, anyway, I'm really glad you like Bloodborne.
Yeah, I always liked it. It was just like, to me, it was too hard when I tried to play it. It really tells me that my skill level like rose up a notch this year with like how the Souls game I finally got the Souls games, and it was cool to go back to. And more and more, like, all the cries of people that want this game remastered or like a remake of all that, I totally get that, because there's nothing like it. in that style, like with that gothic, like straight up gothic horror with HP Lovecraft. It's like it's so visually, it burns itself in your mind. Like it's so in such a unique way, even more than Elden Ring in a way, because Elden Ring, I feel like if you love something like Berserk, it's like watching like someone having made that kind of dark fantasy.
Elden Ring really is like the buffet table of that, where it has different elements from all that, including a whole school that looks very from Bloodborne. But Bloodborne specifically focusing on that aspect and aesthetic, I've never seen anything do it better to this day.
Yeah.
I love the little details of like the blood on your character and stuff. Just
what a bloody wet game, Bloodborne.
So nasty looking. Like I feel that when I slog through like the sewage from the city, it's like, oh, that looks so nasty. And I guess the last thing I'll mention is the sound that the weird crows make that crawl on the ground. Yeah, it's like a blender. That's not a crow. I don't know what they recorded, but I want it far away from me, because that is probably one of the most terrifying sounds I've ever heard in a video game personally, and that stuff normally doesn't affect me. Oh yeah.
But yeah, Bloodborne is like, there's a reason that's such a beloved game, and one of the most beloved, if not the most beloved PS4 exclusive for many. I always see Bloodborne like topping lists.
Yeah.
Like
very deservedly so.
Yeah. To me, it would, if we eventually went back and did like, let's rank all the PS4 exclusives, like from least best to best, like Bloodborne was always top 10, but lower tier for me. After this playthrough, climbed up. It has climbed up very significally.
It's like top 5, if not 3 for me, depending on the day.
No, exactly. So depending on the day when you ask me, but I loved replaying it. I absolutely loved replaying it, and I have left it installed now in my external hard drive. I can always go back to it.
Oh yeah, and there's so much to go back to, from like the chalices, the secret bosses, everything. It's so fun.
And I'll say this, like fighting Gurman, the first hunter, as the final boss, didn't leave me with the sour aftertaste of trying to fight the Elden Beast.
Because that was a fight, that's for sure. But it made sense.
Exactly. The Elden Beast didn't make sense with if you didn't come in with a specific build.
I think that's why every final boss always was a humanoid enemy, because it was the most fair overall, when like you'd always have one in the different Dark Souls games that you were just like, this is bullcrap, the hitbox is ridiculous, but that was always either like a secret boss like the Nameless King or something, but then it was always either like the Cinder dude from the third game.
I love the Cinder. I love fighting yourself in the third game.
I can't remember any of the first or the second final boss.
The first game, it was like that legendary Lord of Cinder. I forget his name, but
he was big, but he was still like
he was human. He was a humanoid.
Right. But yeah, you see what I'm saying. Whereas like Elden Ring having the final boss be the really huge weird hitbox enemy, I think that was a bit of a misstep. But yeah, anyway. Glad you enjoyed yourself. Bloodborne's amazing.
Yes, and and if you have PS Plus, like you have easy access to this game. I tell you, people, play it. It's especially now that Souls games are now no longer niche. They're finally now a popular thing. Definitely go back to that one. It's like there's a reason many people wanted to come back. I also finally finished Sonic Frontiers. The same day that I finished Bloodborne, I just played through the final sections of Sonic Frontiers. There's one section of that game halfway through that I feel deflated a lot of my excitement of it, by the final 2 maps recovered it a little bit for me, and I still stand by that. This Sonic Frontiers is still my biggest gaming surprise of this year, and that kept throughout. It's still it's like there's, even with its technical atrocities like the horrible pop-in, that game can be like quite enchanting. That game can sometimes like be quite provocative with some of like its visuals. That picture, that screenshot I sent you, the Eggman kneeling with the falling stars, is like, it's like they managed to kind of like create evocative imagery.
Yeah.
In what's the usual tried and true Sonic I can say this, like art style, because I would say Sonic Frontiers definitely looks like all other Sonics that you have played. It's just that it plays so much better. This is finally the sturdy bones the Sonic franchise has needed in 3D, and while not perfect with the meat that surrounds those bones, now like if Sega finally gets out of its own way, get their faces out of their own ass, and realize, no, now we have finally set up the foundation. let's not try to change this foundation. Now let's fix the game around it, because now what they have there with the foundation is like, if they finally nail the technical problems and the classic Sonic BS that a lot of the 3D Sonic games always have had since Sonic Adventure, they can see themselves with a 10 out of 10 Sonic game like in the next time, now that the foundation has been set. This is like the Assassin's Creed 1 or Sonic. Let's put it that way. It set up the foundation.
Yeah, okay.
So the sequel could be really amazing. And I'm glad, because Sonic Frontiers, like, this was a great game to chill. When I was like, I upgraded my speed and just going through the 5 different biomes like at top speed, doing the collectibles and all that, it just felt really nice, because that's how nice Sonic Frontiers felt to play. I hope that you find a way to play this, because this is the first Sonic game that I can recommend to non-Sonic fans to be like, this is a legit good game. I don't have to caveat it too much. Other games fucking sucked before, let's just call it like that. And others had like a few good stuff, but you had to like always caveat it. I don't feel like I have to caveat much of this, like, at least from a fundamental gameplay perspective. Sonic Frontiers delivered for me. So
awesome.
We played Destiny 2. We went through the dungeon yesterday, the Spire of the Watcher. Paul, how do you feel going through your possibly third dungeon?
Yeah, it was definitely the easiest, I would
Way
say.
easier.
The duality dungeon was extremely confusing in the way that it was laid out, especially its final boss. Now it makes sense, but like that kind of trial and error understanding of that was weird. And then before
the duality dungeon, because that was the season that introduced Solar 3.0 and the resilience rework that made you like more unstoppable.
Yeah.
Just throws so much at you in that boss fight, like, and like very little place for you to cover, getting shot from any enemies left and right.
Which almost feels like you're forced to play a certain style, which I don't appreciate. When I really like freedom, obviously. Normally a game like Destiny really allows you to do that, but that one specifically felt like, okay, unless you do this specific new thing, you're gonna suck at all of it.
Yeah, either you have your 100 resilience or close to 100 resilience, or you're not gonna survive. So
yeah. So anyway, to not talk about old stuff, the new one,
toned it down.
Really fun. It toned it down. It was just kind of like I don't want to say chill, but it was a lot more manageable. It was kind of striking in its imagery sometimes, where it's like, okay, you're going through this really old tech kind of building on Mars. So it starts off very old west desert, which lines up perfectly with the weapons and armor that you get from it. And then you just descend deeper into this pit, fighting off more and more things. Actually, part of it you go down, part of it you're going up. Now that I think about
you
it.
climb up.
Yeah.
That's
you
what
climb up first, and then
Fire
you
of the
go
Watcher.
down. Right. Because yeah, so that was just a ton of fun, going through, taking out everything, feeling like I was actually a useful part of the crew, because what they added for the like mental side of the challenge was
connecting
really manageable. It was like, hey, you see this thing, shoot
it. Follow the electrical grid.
Yeah. And then it was like, all right, break, you go off in different directions, don't die, shoot the things, and then you're like, come back together. And that was fun. The fans it was just like a fun little descending puzzle, and I enjoyed jumping around and stuff. It was really a lot more understandable than some of the other things that it's like, okay, I'm confused, I have no idea where to go. I don't think I really got lost at any real point in this. And there weren't a lot of death traps either, so that was really fun too.
Yeah.
Outside of that, and the fact that I really like what the armor and weapons look like, it makes me really want to just keep playing it more and more, as opposed to duality, which I tried once and said, I am not touching this sucker. And I think it took me a few weeks to finally go back with you and some others to once everyone else understood it, to be able to trust the people out at our side.
Yeah, I played way too much duality when I look back at it, especially now that we've seen our if you're on PlayStation wrapup.playstation.com is live, so you can kind of see like how many hours have you played. I didn't realize that I dedicated 500 hours of my life to Destiny this year, even in a year where I felt that I fell off of it through the huge gaps of it. That just shows you how much
before you did, we went off.
Yeah.
on Destiny.
I know. So I play way too much Duality, and around that time I was also playing a lot of Bolt of Glass to get that stupid Vex Mytho class.
Yeah, I
So-
definitely think you just played way too long for that one.
Yeah.
You needed to cut your losses way earlier and come back to it every once in a while. But at least for right now, I think.
I feel right now it's in a spot where I don't think right now Destiny is not in a great spot. A lot of the community
It's
still
not, but-
feels that way, especially because of the seasonal model that has gotten way too old and way too repetitive, and it's doing the wait a week, do your story thing, get your like little upgrades for your upgrade notes that you get to your bender, rinse and repeat. Like they've been doing that since like season 10, actually even further back, season like 9. So we're like on season 19, I think we are this time.
Yep.
This time, so imagine 10 seasons of just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. Especially when you have the expansion that, especially the Witch Queen side of Destiny this time, like when the expansion dropped, that gave us.
They really stopped exploring that, didn't they?
It's because of the season, because seasons are the ongoing story of things. It's just that I feel that Witch Queen was such an inflection point of like cooler new type of content that Bungie could do, especially with difficulty. Like the way they did legendary difficulty was perfect.
It was a great idea when you really think
the
about
the scaled up legendary difficulty, the way that you're rewarded handsomely by finishing each individual encounter of those campaigns, like being able to like checkpoint forever without having to like wait for a reset and all that. I felt like from design perspective, the Witch Queen campaign felt like such a leap that everything else that has remained static, now you feel that things are old. That's
more sense.
Yeah, that's what has created that schism with how people feel about Destiny this year. Despite universally when Witch Queen came out, everyone was like, this is the best Destiny has ever been. The thing is that when people were saying that was that you could say that with the campaign, you couldn't say that about the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping Lightfall, it's like the time where they keep the same design chops that they brought with Witch Queen, but that's finally start spreading out to the rest of the game, because how would you enjoy something so good with a campaign and then everything else that has become so rote? It's like that's why I feel there's a more antipathy towards Destiny, because I think to its core it's still a fun shooter. There was a reason why I dedicated so much time to Destiny. It's such a great comfort food game. It really is. And right now, especially now that I like some of the armor, even though I was very irresponsible with my money. I spent the money for the whatchamacallit,
Assassin's Creed.
the Assassin's Creed crossover. Destiny, one of my favorite franchises, Assassin's Creed, like a franchise, especially this year that I went up its own butt.
Yeah.
Completely, especially with Valhalla, replaying other stuff. I was doing the ranking recently. It was like, you put that's when I'm gonna put the money. When Fortnite had the crossover, you bought the.
I bought the Fortnite armor for the
Titan,
specifically because of how good the helmet looked, and I have at least not regretted that. And that was like $15.
$15, yeah.
Maybe.
So it was 20 per character, and I bought for all three of them, for my Hunter, for my Titan, and my Warlock, plus an extra 10 for the emote, the finisher.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the other one. Yeah, because the finisher, which was the assassination move, and all of the look.
I absolutely love, especially with my Warlock that looks like Altair.
Yeah, the Warlock's probably the coolest one, I would say, out of the bunch.
I do like the Titan one though. Because I like it.
I don't hate it. It looks better on the guy than the girl, which is what I'm stuck at.
You're with a
Titan.
Oh, you're with a female Titan. Oh, that's
why
I'm
my
with
Titan looks a certain way.
Yeah, mine's a male Titan.
And of course, they never let you change the way they look or the gender, which should be so easy of a thing. But because I don't want to delete my Titan and make a new one for the guy.
No, not with everything that you have done at this point. Like
exactly,
you're basically stuck.
I'm just gonna wait until they eventually do it, if they ever do. But like sometimes the armor looks better depending on what it is on the female Titan, because sometimes the guy can just look way too bulky, and you don't really.
I kind of feel that way with my Hunter, because I made my Hunter a female.
Right.
So sometimes I feel some of the armor looks too thin on her.
Yeah, like they specifically tone it back, especially the Hunter, which doesn't really have good arm pieces. At least I don't feel like they do.
Maybe there are. It's just that both of us are not too intrinsically tied to the most popular class in the games. Everyone loves Hunters.
Everybody else, yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I like the concept, and I just never liked their supers as much. It wasn't until
I always felt the hunters felt weak. That was my problem with hunters.
yeah, and
So,
but then of course, like if you play it the right way, you can be really powerful. So it's just not the way that our brains are wired for it,
mhm.
which is fine with me. My Titan serves me just fine,
I feel
and I love it.
a game should never be too tied to only like be one dominant class. I feel three classes all have their plus and minuses. That if you
Oh yeah.
stick with one, you're not gonna like be disappointed. That's how I always felt.
Realistically,
Yeah. So,
I mean, just how impressive it is that they have such three very different styles of play so perfectly wrapped up in that package, whereas most of the people, like each of the mains, say my main is the best one and the game was made for that, and everyone says that about their class. So it's like good for them. And overall, yeah, just I enjoyed the dungeon a whole lot. I love the armor, I love the weapons, I want to keep playing it. And yeah, that's it for that.
yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on that one?
Other than that, it's just like I'm gonna keep playing like as much as I kind of want to out of it, but things have come out. One thing that I'm currently gonna have to review because I committed to
Yeah,
that, and even The Witcher 3 comes out tomorrow,
I
and I
know.
have heard many great things about how great of a new version it is. So, Crisis Core Final Fantasy Reunion, Paul, the big surprise release announcement of the E3 time this year, something that was very near and dear to your heart, especially. It was funny receiving that like 4 weeks after we had recorded the games that made us, and this particular game being your favorite PSP game of all time,
Yes.
and me never having had the chance to. I have heard great things about it, just like I've heard from many Final Fantasies, but never having the chance to properly play it for myself. And then when they finally announced that, I was like, finally, a modern way to be able to play that. And we started playing it last night. I played it for only an hour. How long do you play?
I played a lot longer last night, and then I played a little bit today. So I want to know where are you at currently?
I stopped when they gave you the first mission that you can pick in missions, which was a training thing.
Okay, so
Well, you were at the base.
I think so. You did the base at like Wutai and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Because yeah, that's like the big action-packed prologue for sure. Alongside the virtual reality thing. Now, so I am a little past that. I'm going through all of the missions because that's like I mentioned to you in the message. That's where you get all of like your really good materia, your summons, and all of that
Yeah,
stuff. So
in a very like Metal Gear Solid 5 thing that reminds me, and
it's funny. I saw the same thing just recently.
I remember hearing that people were saying that Metal Gear Solid 5 had a very mobile game style or like very handheld game style mission structure, and now I understand. Now I totally understand it because especially when I played Peace Walker, which was a PSP game.
Yeah,
it had that.
And
So
that had the same thing. Portable Ops had the same process of thinking as well.
Monster Hunter games on
Monster
PSP
Hunter,
also had that.
Oh shoot, I'm blanking out on it. The crap, I don't even remember what it was. But anyway, yeah, there was just a lot of thing on PSP that made that style of game really. God Eater. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
The big anime game with the big swords and weird things. So yeah, it was literally like that. You had a hub, you picked your missions, and you did that. So they incorporated that into a surprisingly good and deep narrative story, but they're almost completely separate almost immediately. Where it's like you can be doing all of your stuff, you're at the very end of the game and things are going nuts, and then you're like, let me go into my phone and go do some missions real quick. It's like not connected to the story.
And they're bite-sized, so it makes sense in the idea for like something quick to play on a handheld. So
it's so easy to like go in and then you're done with one in a couple minutes, and it always felt really good to go back to. There's one that I'll tell you, it's like versus Shinra troops, and each one goes higher and higher. There's one that's versus 100. And it is so fun to just go through 100 Shinra troops that keep spawning and spawning and ripping through all of it.
And I'll say this with the little that I played, like obviously I feel like the Final Fantasy VII Remake started going this way, but that was like the weird hybrid where you can keep slamming attacks at enemies, but the real thing was that you were just building your AP to be able to do the sort of turn-based style, like okay, pick this is gonna take like 2 APVs from the things that I have built and watch the attack. This feels more like a Kingdom Hearts style, like tap 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 to
keep doing that. You mash your dodge button, you mash your magic buttons, you got your shortcuts to it. Even down to the 3 types of cinematics you get between the fully rendered, the kind of nice cutscenes, and then like the
In-game.
text base in game fully with the moving lip flaps. And I didn't think about how similar it was to Kingdom Hearts, really. I mean, every once in a while, I'd be like, oh, it's interesting that I like this one specific game and I really love Kingdom Hearts, but now I can really see the similarities from.
And I was the Kingdom Hearts guy because the turn-based RPGs for Final Fantasy, I've never beaten a single one of them.
No.
I tried them all, but
it's long.
Exactly. So it's just not my it's just not my type of game. Even though I recently a game like Midnight Sun Switch, because I played all this stuff, I kind of like put it there. I liked it because it's like I can dig a Marvel style game like that's sort of turn-based, because it's at least like the subject matter can help you push through and thing. Like I mentioned before, pushes you through genres that you probably didn't know. That's kind of like how my sort of first Souls game was Jedi Fallen Order, even though it wasn't really, but it was very similar in some ways.
Wow.
So
I still forget that was your. Was it really your first? Because no, you've played Bloodborne before.
Exactly, but Bloodborne is always considered not like true Dark Souls.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's like different. It's like
it does change it up a lot.
It does change it up a little bit. So, and even then, people are like, no, this is like easy Sekiro in the same year that Sekiro came out, with the with the L1 parries and all that. But yeah, it's like immediately I was struck out with it's like no turn-based shenanigans here. It's like me like just tapping. Sometimes I just like that. I'm a simpleton like that sometimes. So I definitely dig that. But this is such a PSP game. It's such a like pretty spruced up PSP game, but the PSP-ness of it like shines through so much that I don't think you could ever like mistake this for like a true modern game. It's not.
No.
And I don't think it's a problem. To me personally, I don't think that's a problem. I feel this is a great archaeological dive for me, being like, they managed to play it up for it to look like something I would like to play around this time, like in this day and age, but it's still ostensibly that game. It's not the full-on remake of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, that's completely different from how it originally was.
And even then, like, at first they were kind of making us think that they had kind of changed the combat to more like the Final Fantasy Remake, and I wouldn't say it like that at all. I would say it's literally just the PSP version. With just the tiniest quality of life changes that you probably wouldn't even notice, like the ability to skip the in-game combat cinematics. You used to not be able to do that, and you just had to sit through it. But because I'm not sure if you've done that, any of those yet, like the one with Angeal, you get to do punches or anything.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you didn't even know that. Okay. Yeah. Usually they have one of them that's story tied, and I thought you might have gotten to that. Anyway, with the whole DMW system, you get to do like these final moves that look like summons, except it's your character doing some things.
And that's always random, right?
There's like nothing you can do. You might as well not even look at it. It'll randomly pop up, and it pops up into the middle of the screen, says the bonus it's giving you for the next like 20 seconds. Utilizing that though has made the game so much easier for me, because Teenage Paul didn't really understand that, so he'd just keep mashing away at the game. And, why is this one boss really suck? My goodness. Which there is one. I want to see if you just wipe through it. There's one boss in the game that is much harder than everything else for some reason. But I
remember in 7 Remake, I had a lot of tough time with the house.
I think everybody did, because it was resistant to like everything. I'm still not entirely sure how I beat it. I could not remember, but yeah, there's like one of those he's not quite that bad, but he just has a lot of health and you can't really see his health. So it's like, when will it end? But anyway, to get back to it all, the DMW system is weird and convoluted, but at the same time, it's like kind of cute in how much effort they put into it. Because the whole idea is, this is who Zach is thinking about in this moment, and then they do a move that is inspired by that character, which ties into the storyline really nice at the end. But beyond that, it's just like, oh, well, he's thinking a little bit about Angeal, so he fights like Angeal for a second. That's cool, but whatever. It's like a PSP style thing. But anyway, let me talk about briefly the performances. I'm not really huge on. Zach's voice is just not doing it for me
So
yet.
they actually did change the voice.
They did. They are using the voice actors from the remake game
Oh, okay.
to connect it, but I guess because Zach doesn't talk hardly at all, you don't really hear it. And I'll just keep talking about it then. Essentially, he is he sounds more competent in the original version, and for this one they kind of started him out by making him sound more whiny, making him
Mhm.
sound younger, and he's like, but Aunt Jill, I want to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. Very like Luke Skywalker kind of feel to him. And this one, like, I don't know, he used to have a deeper voice. I'd want to have your thoughts on it by like watching like maybe the intro cutscene or something, just
Yeah,
hear
I'll
the
definitely look it up.
tones.
Yeah.
But as far as like the dialogue itself that you and I have talked about at length, it is completely unchanged, and that something about that makes me so happy
Hmm.
because it is not great sometimes. It's weirdly paced out in the way they say things. It's like you're watching a Shakespearean play and they didn't change the translation. So everyone talks like they're a freaking poet, and
Hmm.
Zach is just over here like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And the where that kind of goes is funny because in the original one, it kind of like has a moment where somebody's quoting like their in-game Shakespeare universe, whatever, and Zach is just like, "Shut up, please shut up, I'm begging you." And you'll get to that later in the game, and it always makes me laugh because there's just this weird vibe to it. It's like very Revenge of the Sith way of writing their dialogue,
Hmm.
but it's just I'm so excited that we all get to experience this, and I want to keep picking
Yeah,
your brain.
I think like what makes me excited is that you have previous experience with this game. I
Yes.
don't. So I
Yeah.
really want to see like how this works as, because I bet you 80% of people are gonna buy this game didn't play it on PSP.
Oh yeah.
I bet you top dollar.
Oh,
And I feel like that puts me in an interesting position to review this, because I feel like I'll be able to provide the more layman, more representative way a lot of people are gonna experience Crisis Core. As someone that didn't play it back on PSP, that probably heard about it or maybe saw some betas about it, but being able to like experience wrestling, I feel those are the kind of people that Square Enix definitely wants. Like being able to like get the people that never really played it, because
Well, it
people...
helps because they're not going to make Crisis Core available on anything except the original PSP, so it's not like
Mhm.
anyone can ever play it themselves anyway. I I guess my last thoughts on it are I hope that they don't change too much, because it's really going to confuse the crap out of people if they do.
Mhm.
Because then, like, you're not going to know as a newcomer where the line ends on how it played out versus how it now will be.
Yeah,
Unless there's some kind
a
of
remake
spoiler.
made it very clear where things were gonna go like
Right.
different. Like it
But
made it real clear.
they're very clear for that. But now it's like, is this supposed to explain to you how the timeline was supposed to go beforehand? Because for people who didn't know who Zach was, did not understand how, like, I guess slight spoilers for the remake side of it, that they're going in a different direction in the timeline, as
Mhm.
certain characters didn't die that were supposed to. But if
Mhm.
you didn't know that beforehand, you wouldn't really understand that that was a big
Mhm.
deal,
Oh yeah.
unless, like, for this game, showing how that character dies being the whole point of the game. Where do you draw that line of, hey, this is how it played out, so now you understand for remake that's a big deal? Or, hey, are we going to watch this character just cheat death
Mhm.
and have no explanation for it? So I'm a little worried that they're going to go that direction. People aren't going to understand how powerful of a game
And
that
it's a
was.
gambit. That's the gambit
It
Square Enix
is.
is running, especially when they decided to go so left to where people thought were going right
Yeah.
with remake. When everyone was like, no, they're only extending the first 5 hours of this game into like a full length game, and then your player's like, oh, that's not all they're doing. They're actually like
Oh.
daring to maybe change the story a little bit. So
Yeah, it's so impressive. I just have to give it respect for the ambition,
it's
which is
ballsy. No,
not
it's
something we
ballsy.
get ever. So that there's still that nostalgia side of me that's like, I want it 100% not touched so people can watch how tragic and beautiful it is. And then
Mhm.
there's that, well, I mean, if they want to tie it into the next game that comes out, I would see it. And this is a perfect
Look,
opportunity.
with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and the next one's called Rebirth, and this has a reunion
Reunion.
with another RE like
Yeah.
word at the end. So it's like,
Not to mention the whole point of the game is that a certain character is trying to reunite with another one, and it doesn't happen. Maybe that's a sign that it's gonna be really interesting.
Yeah. I can't wait to play. I can't wait to play more. Our clan already asked to see if we can do like some activities for Destiny. I'm definitely going to see how I do that, but I'm definitely going back into.
But like my main priority is definitely getting through Crisis Core and all that. But yeah, I'm just so excited. Anyway, we have so much stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah, especially just because of one event. So, enough of what we've been playing, Paul. Press X.
For some game awards, really.
Yeah. So yeah, Paul, it's basically the news for this week is just Game Awards stuff.
Yep.
Kind of how we did it last year when Game Awards 2021 happened, that we're gonna like read through who the winners were, and then we're gonna go through the announcements, which is basically what everyone cares about the Game Awards.
I want to throw an idea to you. One of us could read what it is, and the other one says what it was.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. So.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Which one do you want?
Okay. No, it can be like the category, and you read the winner.
Okay, yeah, I'm down for that.
So I'll do the category. So here are the Game Awards winners. So, Best Narrative,
God of War Ragnarok.
Best Art Direction,
Elden Ring.
Best Score and Music,
Bear McCreary for God of War Ragnarok.
Best Audio Design,
God of War Ragnarok.
Best Performance,
Christopher Judge for God of War Ragnarok.
Games for Impact for a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message,
As Dusk Falls.
Best Ongoing Game,
Final Fantasy XIV Online.
Best Indie Game,
Stray.
Best Debut Indie Game,
Also Stray.
Best Mobile Game,
Marvel Snap.
Best Community Support,
Final Fantasy XIV Online.
Best VR/AR Game,
Moss Book 2.
Innovation in Accessibility, recognizing software and/or hardware that is pushing the medium forward by adding features, technology, and content to help games be played and enjoyed by an even wider audience. Winner?
I think that one needs a little bit short of a title in the future. God of War Ragnarok.
Yes. Best Action Game,
Bayonetta 3.
Best Action Adventure Game,
God of War Ragnarok.
Best RPG,
Elden Ring.
Best Fighting Game,
Multiverses.
Best Family Game,
Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Best Sports Racing Game,
Gran Turismo 7.
Best Sim Strategy Game,
Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope.
Best Multiplayer Game,
Splatoon 3.
Content Creator of the Year for a streamer or content creator who has made an important and positive impact on the community in 2022.
Ludwig.
Best Esports Athlete. The Esports Athlete judged to be the most outstanding for performance and conduct in 2022, irrespective of game.
Jacob Ye Whitaker, Cloud9 and Valorant.
Best Esports Coach. The Esports Coach judged to be the most outstanding for performance and conduct in 2022.
Mateus Bizka Terrasconi for Loud and Valorant.
Best Esports Event, recognizing an event across single or multiple days that delivered a best-of-class experience for participants and the broadcast audience.
2022 League of Legends World Championship.
Best Esports Game.
Valorant.
Best Esports Team, recognizing a specific esports team, not the full organization, judged the most for outstanding performance and conduct in 2022.
That is the team Loud for the game Valorant.
Most anticipated game.
Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Best Adaptation.
Arcane League of Legends.
Best Game Direction.
Elden Ring.
And Game of the Year.
Elden Ring.
So, looking at this list, Paul, like, does it feel right? Does it feel right, the things that won?
You know, overall, at least for the ones that are really relevant to me and my understanding of them, absolutely. Especially shout outs go to game direction and art direction for Elden Ring, 100% earning it there. A lot of the others in, excuse me, for God of War Ragnarok for like performances, narrative, and things like that, absolutely. They did a fantastic job. Are there any outliers that you would say really don't line up?
The one that I'm torn for is Best Score and Music. I love the God of War music. You have to be insane if you didn't think the Elden Ring soundtrack was the banger soundtrack of a game this year.
It certainly was, and I think it could have gone either way
Yeah.
because if I had to think back on it, God of War has more iconic riffs and leitmotifs for me.
To me, like, I think of the Radon theme, I think of the Millennia theme, I think of the starting music, the Radagon music at the end, which is also the beginning music, and with like a different feel. The Immured song when you go inside the Evergolds to fight like the Bloodhound Fang, and have kind of like that epic, terrifying like riffs to it. It's like, I feel like there, especially with a game with as little narrative as Elden Ring had, the music told the story. I feel like that. Yeah.
I can remember the first 10 seconds of the Millennia boss fight theme.
Oh yeah, especially because it's like you heard it like for 10 hours straight trying to beat her.
Oh boy. But
and that's probably why that's more ingrained in my mind because of
it certainly is.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like I don't want to take out the like the God of War win for music because I thought the Verve McCreary music for Ragnarok was even better than 2018.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It had even more iconic, whimsical music.
I think it could have gone back and forth for me through all of it, and there's one spot for us where Kratos jumps through a certain portal into a certain fight.
Yeah.
Where
You felt it, yeah.
I was like, I'm feeling this.
I feel like a lot of people say that a lot of these awards have recency bias to them. I think that remembering that epicness, I can see why God of War, because that was chill inducing music, but the Ragnarok music while you're in that final fight also, which is also the music from the Well of Ord that played like, during the prophecy with the three sisters. It's like,
yeah,
it's more because I know like because I personally, to me, like my favorite game of the year was God of War Ragnarok. Like spoilers for whenever we do game of the year, that is my pick. Like I understand also when I think of what my second favorite game is, and I remember this music a lot. Especially especially in its ambience, how much that music carried a lot in like the deficiencies in narrative for Elden Ring. But obviously, Elden Ring not a narrative heavy game; it's a lore heavy game. But sometimes like the music can tell the story. So I feel like they were nominated in that. I feel like could have given it to them, and that's okay because God of War won like 6 awards. This thing.
Yeah, God of War carried away a lot of them, and I know there's some people that it's like, oh, it doesn't matter how many you win if you don't win Game of the Year, and that's kind of ridiculous.
No, that's just trying to discount like it being an award winner, like award-winning game. It is funny though that when you go to the PS Store and they're selling God of War there, they have put game awards and put winner there. I'm like,
it's technically right.
Yeah, but it's like you absolutely know what they're trying to do.
I think what's even more dishonest is when everybody comes out with a Game of the Year edition of their game.
Oh yeah, like Far Cry 6.
Come on, guys, that didn't win anywhere close to the Game of the Year, but of course nobody is going to look that up, especially for the actual common person buying a Game of the Year edition. Usually it's just like, whoa, that must be a really good game because you see it says Game of the Year on the front. I'm going to buy that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember Arkham Knight did it also, and that was the only Arkham game that was never nominated compared to Arkham Asylum. And Cyberpunk is trying to push in a Game of the Year edition. That's also super disingenuous.
Like Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War had Game of the Year.
Shadow of Mordor was nominated for Game of the Year and won a couple.
It was nominated, but
but it won. Like there were sites that gave Shadow of Mordor Game of the Year. So if you won it in a few sites, you deserve to be put a Game of the Year. But Shadow of War, no, that absolutely not. That's the one that it didn't.
But yeah, you see what I'm saying. I think the last thing I want to mention about two things. One is that it's kind of funny and a little sad that we don't have enough entries for Best Sports and Racing Game to be two separate individuals.
Oh yeah, so they have to give it to Gran Turismo 7.
Where we used to have something like the NBA Streets and all of these crazy different sports-related games that just can't exist anymore because that market is gone. And the last being Best Fighting Game of all things going to Multiverses, which I know it is technically it is a fighting game and is by far one of the biggest releases, if not the biggest, being a free-to-play game involving all of WB's IPs. But I definitely feel like there's a bit of a popularity bias on that because that's the only one people kind of played, probably.
I'm trying to think what else came out this year for the fighting games.
Guilty Gear.
No, that was last year.
Well, okay, no, that would have been
Yeah,
expansions. And King
exactly.
of Fighters 15,
That
Virtua
probably, yes.
Fighter.
Yeah. Was
Those
Virtua
were
Fighter? Was there a Virtua Fighter this year? I know there was a King of Fighters.
There was
That I
like
know.
a fifth or a sixth game for Virtua Fighter. I remember because it came out and then it immediately went on for free for PlayStation. But it was a very good game that a lot of people talked about.
Yeah, and I
It's
bet
just
like also
not as popular.
the free to play nature of Multiverses made it the one fighting game a lot of people tried, and the
was-
fact that this award has been given to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate in recent times, and that's in
Right.
the style, so obviously it wasn't gonna win there.
Yeah. So it's like, of course I see it, but there's also that tiny part of me in the back of my mind, like, oh man, once again, it's the popularity side of it rather than the one that was the better game. Because while I liked Multiverses, I think it had a little bit of too much fat on some of the processes for it, trying to
It has
differentiate itself.
it had the whatchamacallit, the free to play like grind to it.
That
So.
is by itself a very big issue, as I'll agree with that. But like even there's not like a regular button you can kind of mash. You have to hit the direction and do the button, and there's a lot of weird things that they were just like, hey guys, it's not Marvel. I mean, not Marvel. What am I saying? Smash Bros. We can't just do exactly that and call it a day. So also multiplayer game going to Splatoon 3.
Which doesn't surprise me. Splatoon 1 won best multiplayer game of the year. It came out in 2015, so there's precedent.
Yeah, I mean it's a good game. All right, I guess it's just shocking that of all the other multiplayer games out there,
To me, that's the only multiplayer things that I really played this year were Modern Warfare 2 and Destiny. Like,
right. And
I don't feel really strong about those because it's like we know what they are. This is a real good Call of Duty year for multiplayer, but
it is. I think
not
I'm
not
remembering,
worthy.
or I need to remember that that only counts for the game that was released in that year, rather than games that came out previously that had continued support.
But like something like Destiny 2 is always like in the ongoing game thing, and even the community
Right.
support thing.
I did
so.
see that, but of course, like you can't compare with Final Fantasy 14, which just freaking kills it on its community support.
They're still like right now the kings like right now they have the model that I want Destiny 2 to have. They literally do, because Final Fantasy 14 doesn't like carrot you through an entire year of like, here's your seasonal content, so you don't stop playing. Final Fantasy 14 comes in with like the big expansions with enough content, and they even tell you when you're done with this content, it's okay, go away, go play other stuff, come back when we have other stuff, and
Yeah.
and that's how I've been treating Destiny this year, and it's felt healthier, and I feel like their community doesn't feel as salty because of that. It has a much healthier, way healthier relationship with its community right now. Like we know that the Destiny community right now is in revolt with its seasonal content, and the fact that they have scaled back communication, which obviously they have mentioned because of death threats and all the harassment that they haven't gotten, but they like Bungie has like that big problem where they swing the pendulum so far in one direction each instead of finding a perfect middle, and now they have other times where Destiny has won the community support many times in this awards. They didn't win it this year, and doesn't surprise me. They got quiet this year for good explained reasons. Best game direction and game of the year. Like I told you in our God of War spoiler cast, I embraced this. I knew it was gonna happen. As much as I really enjoyed God of War Ragnarok, I just knew that when it's kind of like similar to the conversations we were having with our friend PJ slash JOK last year when he was like trying to push for Metroid Dread because of all like the conversation that game was causing in the like late in the year, and me telling him, you should remember, like I wish you were more in tune with like games media and the conversations around games, and seeing how It Takes Two was taking a lot of the conversation early in the year, and that's the one that took it in the Game Awards. So Elden Ring obviously crossed the Rubicon with how popular it was. Of course it was gonna win. So, and that's the thing, like eliminate the Elden Miss, that was my game of the year. The Elden Miss is what puts it not as my favorite of the year.
Seriously.
So,
Which is it's just such a shame how one bad final impression can really mess things up. I do want to clarify one thing I messed up. Virtua Fighter did not come out this year. That was last year. And it was actually the Ultimate Showdown version of a game from even older. I swear I thought that was a completely new game because of the way people talked about it. I also see how Multiverses is the one that won because the other options were not very great. And then Sifu, which I still very much disagree with as a
Oh yeah,
fighting game.
that's what tells you that they were like scraping the bottom of the barrel to try to fill up a list here.
They were hurting for something. So yeah, Multiverses definitely wins it based on everything else that came out. But yeah, so that's I think all of my thoughts for all this.
And now we're gonna move towards like the thing that everyone really cares about the Game Awards, which is the announcements. And Jeff Keighley knows this because he gives more pomp and circumstances to the announcements than sometimes even the awards. I will say though, this was an absolutely better show because you only saw the final third, right? Like because you were in puppy training.
Go back and watch all of the stuff. So like a lot of these, like I watched the one for the first one we're going to talk about. I watched several of the others, but I didn't see the actual show until way later. So anyway,
yeah, and I don't even think you even saw the entire show. It was like it was better. It was better paced. It had a better like. I remember last year it started really strong with the announcement, and then the second half was like a relentless onslaught of like commercials, and on top of that, Tencent backed commercials, like with its Level Infinite, with its Level Infinite like logo. And
has it been a year since that?
Yeah, 2021, the last Game Awards that we watched. That was like at the beginning, because remember that last Game Awards we saw Star Wars Eclipse, we saw Alan Wake 2, we got the gameplay reveal of Hellblade 2. The Wonder Woman game was announced. It was like it had some really strong early announcements, and then it freaking like shit the bed later on. It was like, man, like just started real strong, and now it ended up being one of your worst shows. And it's so funny because then like Summer Game Fest, the Summer Game Fest that followed, to me is the worst Summer Game Fest he's had so far. And now I feel like he really saved the big guns for this one. He paced it better, and I think he was also. I think Jeff Keighley wanted to give more emphasis to the award part of it until Christopher Judge took a year of time to like give all his thanks on stage. Like
I don't even want to go watch it because I fear it's gonna lower my respect for the guy. Because my goodness, based on how everybody's talking about it, it's like there's got to be some kind of level of excitement that you just don't think clearly anymore, that you just start rambling.
And that's what happened. He was rambling. And he was literally thinking, and someone was making the joke that he was going to tell us about his story in 3rd grade, and then he was going to move to his story in 4th grade or something like that. So it was funny, like, because that's the thing. He started, and then the music started playing. Like, they were trying to, like, play him off as like, hey, cut it down, and then he just tried to finish off, and then he tweeted that they cut him off because he wanted to say thanks to his wife also. So that one was funny, because what made it funnier is that Jeff Keighley kept like making snide reference to that moment of trying to and here's what made it even funnier, because apparently Steam, if you were watching the Game Awards through Steam, during the time of you watching like whoever is giving like acceptance speeches, there was a chance that you may win some Steam Decks. So Christopher Judge was like earning a bunch of people's Steam Decks.
Oh my goodness.
So, and then of course like they had these we'll talk about kind of like that crime game that had like all these like weird actors.
Oh yeah.
This kid that introduced Michael Madsen was like caused me physical pain at how awkward it was. And of course like the very end, we mentioned it at the beginning, the whole like that a kid managed to like go up on stage like with no one really like second guessing what was happening, that this random kid came on stage with Miyazaki and the From Software team to then kind of like after the acceptance speech, he just grabs the microphone. He's like, I want to thank my my Reformed Orthodox rabbi Bill Clinton. That was
what
I'll say in a year that started with the Oscars or Golden or whatever it was, the Oscar slap. Of course, this a year end award show ending with this, it felt fitting for 2022. But for the quality of the announcements, I tell you, it was like this felt like the excitement I like from like an E3. Just in the quality of announcements, like it really felt like that. And we're actually gonna go through the Twitter thread from Wario64, which I love him very much for always showing me sometimes some good sales, but also picking on the job that Nivelian left after our Lord and Savior Elon Musk decided to buy Twitter and be a complete ass about it right now. It's like, do you see like his tweet about my pronouns are prosecute Fauci? Just
I am going to very specifically not even go into it.
yeah, it's like
Uh,
but because of that we lost 9 billion because he used to be our great content aggregator to look at. But thank you Warrior64 for providing me the thread so we can like talk about all the things that have been announced since like the whatchamacallit, since the pre-show. The pre-show started with like some good announcement. Like it kicked off with Castlevania and Dead Cells. So Dead Cells returns to Castlevania, new DLC coming in Q1 2023. Dead Cells is a really cool game, and having this 5 years almost since the game came out.
which I have a few details on it. It has 2 new biomes, new enemies, 3 bosses, 14 weapons, 20 outfits, and a whole new storyline.
I'm in. I'm totally in.
Yeah.
Like I am so in for that, and I hope it's not that expensive because I own Dead Cells, so that's gonna be like real cool. And then the hit mobile game, like not mobile, the hit indie game that has taken like Twitter by storm over on PC and Xbox Game Pass, Vampire Survivors, was announced as a free-to-play thing coming to mobile. I tell you, I tried Vampire Survivors a little bit on Series S because it's on Game Pass. Really cool concept for like a very passive game where you're just moving around and your attacks are kind of like happen automatically. I feel that's perfect for mobile. It was like I wanted to press more buttons when I was playing it on Xbox. I was like, I don't really clicking with this, but I know a lot of people are like absolutely losing their minds over Vampire Survivors.
Well, obviously, you're not clicking because it does it itself.
Yes, and now good good one. Yes.
I had to channel Zach for a moment.
Yeah, I'm glad you did because you rarely do that because usually you're the one where the jokes go over your head, a la Drax the Destroyer. But I feel like having a game where you're literally only pressing in the screen to move your character and do all of that is perfect. And I repeat, perfect for that kind of game. And I'm gonna I forgot to download it when it came out because I got caught up on other stuff. But I feel like that would be the perfect way to experience a game that everyone is calling like a legit game of the year contender. It should have been in the game, like a winner compared to straight winning.
Crazy that I've like not even really heard of it beyond maybe like one time when I was like, "Hey, this game looks kind of cool. With there's a bunch of enemies on the screen and you're just wiping them out." And I think that was it. I haven't.
Yeah, it started in game. The thing is that it started early access in December of last year, and then the full game came out this year earlier in PC, and then when it came to Game Pass, it blew up like in March, especially in the circles that I follow, especially in the seasoned gaming circle. God, everyone's like really all over Vampire Survivors, I tell you. So, the next announcement that happened in the pre-show was Valiant Hearts Coming Home. That's the what I mentioned to you, that a sequel to Valiant Hearts announced in partnership with Netflix at the Ubisoft showcase from September. And they confirmed that it's not 2, it's just called Coming Home, and it's only on mobile through Netflix. So great way to kill my hype there, but hey, at least it's there. If it's free to play, maybe I'll try it because
Valiant Hearts not going to be free because you have to pay for Netflix.
I already like my parents.
I mean, yeah, most people, but like realistically, you do have to clarify it is technically not free.
Like everything on Game Pass. So
yeah, really.
Returnal got confirmed for PC also at the show because this was one of the famous Nvidia leak from like a year ago. This was there, so again another thing that you can check mark off of that Nvidia leak. And then after that, this one, when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, Paul is gonna pop for this. Mike Mignola's Hellboy: Web of Weird.
Yes. So I'll get like the negative sides out just first because it does look really rough. They didn't really showcase a whole lot of the actual combat. Did more just to say for proof of concept, yes, you're playing as Hellboy over the shoulder, God of War style, and you can punch enemies. I really hope I don't know if they're going to adapt like the actual storyline of Hellboy or they're just doing their own thing. It's probably going to be its own thing, which I'm fine with because that's just the nature of Hellboy. You can just kind of throw him into any time period and say, yep, Hellboy's here and there's weird stuff going on, go. And that's one reason why his brand works so well. I love that they're just trying to recreate his style as well. Like you said, it's like
the art style, like striking, because it was like it reminded me of the Wolf Among Us. Exactly.
Yeah, so it's just it looks solid. I hope they continue to polish it up. I hope the gameplay itself feels good. And I mean, Hellboy's used a lot of different weapons over his years, between guns, swords, his fist, and everything else in between. It's perfect for a good video game.
Yeah,
So
I will say that because they announced that this is also a roguelite.
that's also true. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, to me, like in a post Hades world, I'm more, and also in a post Returnal world, that's also a sort of roguelite in a way. That do narrative. I feel they could like weave a narrative through this. So, because I feel like games have proven that it's possible. That was a big thing for why Hades won so big 2 years ago, because they managed to find a coherent narrative and something that's like randomized. Because remember, Hades was like the most beloved game of. Actually, it was actually the most awarded game of 2020. Even though Last of Us Part 2 won Game of the Year on their Game Awards that year, that wasn't indicative of like the spectrum of game outlets. So I would hope that they take some cues of like what they saw with with Hades and do that and give that to you, because I would say just on art style alone, that they grabbed me. They totally grabbed me.
It's definitely. I want to explore it, and I hope more people get into the Hellboy style of things as well. So, I'm a believer.
The voice of Zavala is the voice of Hellboy.
I heard about that, so that's going to be really good.
Instead of Ron Perlman.
I know I'm still going to hear Ron Perlman in my head, which he randomly voices some like indie games here and there sometimes. Good for him, honestly. But yeah, I'm set for it. I'm good with it.
Then they announced this. It looked like a sort of horror game called Post Trauma for PC and console, but it was like just quick flashes of like cool looking visual, but not much to go on yet.
Yeah.
And then this PS5 exclusive called Viewfinder, that also kind of like had a creepy vibe, but also very serene vibe in a way.
It looks like more of a puzzle game than anything. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of Return of Oberdin, where it's like there's a little bit of unsettlingness to it, especially in some of the look of it, that like black and white side of things. I'm looking at the random GIF that they have on there. But it's like first person, very much trying to get one place to the next. There's a lot of things to stop you.
Yeah, not my kind of game, but if it's ever like if it's ever given like in like a PS Plus or something, I would totally try it. Because it's only on PS5. So, and then they gave us another look at Atomic Heart, which is coming out on like February. And that's on Game Pass, so you get to try it on Game Pass now that you have an Xbox. They gave another look at Scars Above, which I swear when I saw it, I was like, because I was talking with Duchess about it, we thought it was another Returnal, just based on how it looks.
That was revealed
at one of Keely's stuff.
Yeah, that was one of the many kind of spooky space games that they announced. We were like, that's another one. Yeah, it doesn't have enough of an identity for me for that one, but I hope that it continues to start grabbing me. It's in the middle of the bloodbath that is late February.
The same day that Destiny 2 Lightfall launches. So.
That poor thing. All right. Anyway.
Yeah, then they did Relic Hunters Legend, which was like they offered. It was like let me see the art. So it was like a quirky cartoon, like it looks like a sort of battle royale-ish thing of mashing a bunch of cartoons together, and they said, oh, sign up for the beta. So I was like, yeah, moving on. They also announced another mode for a hide and seek mode for Among Us, and then now this game like called After Us. This was one where I was like, ooh, I'm definitely vibing with this. This feels like post-apocalyptic Journey.
I was gonna say that it does feel like Journey from the way it looked, but also like a lot more unsettling.
Oh yeah, I know, that's what I tell you. It's that's coming out on the spring of 2023 for Xbox Series X and S and PS5. So now we're getting more finally we're moving into the current gen stuff. Barely any stuff from like last gen. So we'll see about that one. They reconfirmed that Replay is the really cool like cyberpunkian art style pixel art that they announced in 2021, and this game got like delayed indefinitely because the developers were over there in like Russia / Ukraine. That's poor thing. But the fact that it's still coming out is like makes me feel good that team like is still safe, like alive and well. And then they gave an I think by this time have we got Yeah, I think at this time the show had already started. They showed more Street Fighter 6. They announced the release date for Street Fighter 6, which is like on June 2nd. So that's insane.
A lot of new characters and a few old ones, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And showing you like the user generated character. No, by this time this is when the pre-show ended. So they gave us the June 2nd, and then the main show started. So the first one that they announced for, well, it started with the long ass conversation, the long ass Christopher Judge speech, and then after that, like a big megaton that no one expected. Hades 2, Supergiant Games' first official sequel, because they'd done
gorgeous animated thing.
Yeah. Well, as soon as it started, I was like, oh, this looks like the Hades art style. I wonder what the new game is. And then it was a Hades 2. I was like, wow. So that really tells me they found such huge success with Hades. Absolute massive success that they're willing to follow it up with a sequel. And with different looking biomes, so you're not just stuck on like Hades, like infernal stuff. So, and it's also releasing in early access, kind of like Hades 1 originally was, because Hades 1 was released in early access in like 2018, and then it spent 2 years on early access until the full release.
Two little details for it. Well, kind of one tying into the other, being that they're stepping further into new gods and creatures for this, so it's not going to be the same people giving the same boons either. One of which is that this character is not an OC do not steal, but it is actually another completely unmentioned daughter of Hades and Persephone that exists in Greek mythology, so much so that there's a person that I watch YouTube videos on that does Greek mythology videos that had never even heard of her. But then after this got announced, they thought it was going to be something they just created for the game, and she looked back into it and it was like, no, she's just that little known.
Man, like mythological myths are so cool. So cool. Like there's so much hidden depth there that even when you think they've done it all, they haven't really.
There's always something, and I'm so impressed with the research they've done in this. So they've earned my purchase, even though I never beat the original Hades, just because I know this is going to be great.
Oh yeah, this is like, that's the thing. Like, it's the kind of game that you don't even need to beat to know that it's great. Yeah, that's what's so great about it. So that's releasing in early access. Some more news coming out this coming year in 2023. Now, from the creator of BioShock, Ken Levine, comes Judas, and I tell you, Paul, like when I saw that, oh boy, this thing like really popped for me, because thinking how long we have been with like a real BioShock style game. 9 years.
I mean, that's what people thought Atomic Heart was going to be for a while, and that's kind of I feel like that's a very different kind of game now, but I'm down to check it out. I'm not really huge on at least the pictures that they've taken. I don't know if I'm vibing with the art style all that much yet. But
I feel the opposite, because this feels like the BioShock Infinite art style, because it was different from the original BioShock, and giving it a more terrifying look that's not even close to like how it was with Burial at Sea.
No, yeah, I'll agree. Like the character design for sure, but of course these are a lot of pictures focusing on the characters with only one of like gameplay outside of that. And
you have to watch the trailer. There was way more gameplay for that. You have to watch it. This is one of the like the top announcements for the show for me, because it was like finally like in a tour like Ken Levine that has been gone for an entire generation, because he didn't release anything during the PS4 Xbox One gen, because BioShock Infinite was PS3 360 with the remasters coming into PS4. So it's like that's how long it's been, and this finally being announced, especially when there's been rumblings that 2K has been like doing a BioShock game with like a BioShock creative studio called Cloud Chamber that hasn't even been announced yet. Finally, now we get this. So from the creator of those guys, from the creators of those games, and it even has like it seems that it has the thing with like plasmid style, like mix of gunplay. That was so BioShock.
Well, I'm down for it. Then just to take a look at closer as things get closer to release. But I think I'm still on the fence. So I'll go watch the trailer after this is over, and hopefully I'll be thinking differently.
You absolutely
one that I am not interested in at all.
This one was weird. Bayonetta Origins, like
looking like freaking Okami out here.
Which would make sense because Mikami, Kamiya, I think worked on Okami, if I'm not mistaken.
Good,
yeah. So It's an interesting way to like segue Bayonetta into something that looks completely different from like its over sexualized high stakes action adventure game. So, and it's releasing on March 17, 2023. That was like I'm like, I didn't know by Platinum Games, considering like the rough year they had with the swift death of Babylon's Fall and all the things that the PR nightmare that Helena Taylor put them through when we realized that she was actually in the wrong. Like, at least they have this, and because they're Nintendo's definitely gonna push it. That's coming out on March 17, 2023. So then we got a trailer for Destiny 2 Lightfall, which
more gameplay,
like just the idea of seeing you be able to strand yourself to a Thunder Crash Titan, just the gameplay possibilities of that was like, oh man, gonna lose my mind. Like,
it still ends up being as creative as we're thinking, rather than after the fact finding out that there might be more of a connected reason why certain things you might be able to grapple to, and where you might not have.
That's the thing, because I know, because we were talking about that yesterday in the chat.
Yeah,
I feel he's wrong. I've heard the other way. Yeah, I've heard the other way. So we'll see. Like,
I hope so, because it would be nice to be able to grapple onto everything, but I can also see how it's going to be a logistical nightmare for them.
Yeah.
Because none of their other previous things were made for that, and it's just going to break the crap out of like raids, dungeons, strikes. Everything is going to be having to like go back under a microscope.
Look, this already happened when Stasis released, and it destroyed everything. So it would be par for the course. Then it took them an entire year to rein it in. Then they did like a brief Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League trailer. The gameplay trailer that they revealed last year was better for me, but I think this came in with the announcement that Kevin Conroy, rest in peace, was able to do like a final performance as Batman in this game. And
I'm impressed that his face looks like Kevin Conroy's.
Right.
his lower jaw, that is a picture of Kevin Conroy right there. And so that's actually kind of really awesome, because I didn't know that before this.
No one knew.
Well, I mean, like before just now, I didn't know. Even after they announced it, nobody's mentioned that to me. So I'm like, oh, now I kind of want to watch it, or play it rather.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, this was the first reveal that Batman was in this game, because when they were saying that this was taking place in the Arkhamverse, we know how Arkham Knight ended.
Oh yeah, good point.
So it was like, okay, so if this is still set in that universe, especially because they already sort of canonically confirmed that the Deathshot that you found in Arkham in Arkham City was not the real Deathshot.
Oh.
So I don't know where I found that, but I found that detail. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I guess that kind of explains how things are connected in a way. So May 26th, they finally gave a release date for this thing. So finally a cool looking game for May. The last Batman game came out in June, so as now like the final thing that we'll ever see Kevin Conroy in, I think that has earned me some more extra excitement for this one. So then they announced that The Last of Us Part 1 comes to PC on March 3rd. We already knew that game was coming to PC. This is the quickest a PC version of these games has come out.
Yeah,
it will be way less than a year than when the...
I guess they already did a lot of the legwork on the front end.
Oh yeah. By the time that this game comes out on PC, the show will be done. The season. So I feel like that's how they're synergizing in it.
Yeah.
Then this was other than you. I had I think it was 4 or 5 announcements that I really popped for. This was the other one that I really popped for, and the one that I was actually looking forward to most to see here. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Being able to see it, I'm like, it absolutely feels like the kind of sequel, like the kind of sequels we like, of like taking all the bones from the original and really building a more sturdy meat around these already sturdy bones. And I'll just say that I heard some people say that they looked at the gameplay and they saw that it looked exactly the same as the original, and I'm like, you better go play back the original, because I don't remember the original like letting you ride stuff, having be able to hold from like animals to float. It feels like it's gonna be more open with even more like gameplay additions. Like,
there was a lot of crazy platforming going on in that that I was not expecting, where it was like a wider open space that you could really go into, jumping and leaping and pulling your way through this whole area. I love the idea.
The grappling hook. Do you see like the whole thing that you dash and now you have a grappling hook for?
I love that whole thing because that's gonna be freaking nuts. I love that Cal Kestis as a character is now like, okay, this is my goal to just make life hell for the Empire, becoming like their most wanted. Because I always love the idea. I feel like Star Wars in general has gotten a little too focused on that. Oh, obviously Jedi would never survive if they were openly out there, so they always have to hide. And that's like the same plot of everything that takes place between episodes 3 and 4 for the last 5 to 10 years. So I love that we're getting back to that like Kyle Katarn style of like, yeah, there's a Jedi and he's just messing crap up for the Empire and they just can't catch him because he's a freaking badass. And I love all of this where Cal is just becoming a freaking powerhouse now and breaking all the ideas of like what a Jedi is, where he's using 2 lightsabers, he's using his staff, he's just doing everything. He's using a gun in his left hand, which we didn't get gameplay of that. I was hoping we would get a little, but everything else he did, all of the force powers he was getting, they were showing.
He just looks like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, bigger, better, more badass, basically.
And looks like an actual current gen look to it. There's one moment where he like pulled the stormtrooper and turned him around. It was just, everything looks so good. Yeah,
it being only on PS5 and Series X and S makes me so excited because it's like, yes. Finally, like this is not gonna be hamstrung, because I feel that's why we still had the kind of jank of Jedi Fallen Order even with the current gen versions of that thing, because that game was built on the older hardware, so of course it was gonna have that jank. Especially remember, that was Respawn's first ever third-person action game, a shooter studio.
We thought that was gonna fall and burn, and
because we could never expect anything good out of Star Wars games from EA around that time. So that's still like, that was my favorite game of 2019. And similar to how I mentioned that in 2018 when I got both Spider-Man and God of War, I felt like Jedi Fallen Order the year after kind of meshes those two games in the way of like, it kind of gave me a similar style of gameplay like that made me fall in love with God of War, and also the level of respect of the license that made me fall in love with the way Insomniac did Spider-Man. They had such respect of Star Wars that I trust them with this one. March 17, Paul. It's so close. So freaking close.
That's easily one of my top favorite. Spoilers for what I'm excited for next year, but that's up there.
Oh yeah.
I tell you.
And it's because it's gonna be so soon. Just think about it. It's like we don't have to wait long.
We will not have to wait long.
And just before we continue, just now looking at the landscape of January to June, we're talking about it. Now it's not gonna be just a January to March bloodbath. Yep. Now it's a 6-month bloodbath.
It is a January to June bloodbath.
Yeah, that to me is a great year. We're gonna talk about that, like looking back at years. It's like, just in comparison, it's like,
now that it's like really lining up, it makes it a lot more clear how a good versus great looks.
Exactly. So, and 2022 was good. But moving on from that, Earthblade from the creators of Celeste, one of like my favorite indie games that came out last generation. Very emotional indie, a game that really dealt about depression, about like kind of like about climbing a mountain of fear in your life. And making it very literal. Celeste like really hit me like a truck when it came out. This is their next game. Looked a little bit more actiony, but still kind of keeping the art style that, like an evolved art style from like the creators of Towerfall Ascension and now Celeste. This is one of the few games that they're like, that's coming all the way to 2024. So definitely not much to see, but I'm just glad that those guys are making another game. Did you ever play Celeste?
I did, but I never finished it. I liked it, but it was so intensive for like the Switch that I originally bought it on.
Oh,
because of the platforming and stuff.
I played it on PS4. That game has like weird diagonal use that I couldn't imagine playing on Switch.
I knew it was good and I picked it up on sale or something, I think, and then I was like, oh no, this is not a game to play on the Switch. I think I eventually got it on the PS4, but by then I was playing so many other games that I was just like, all right, I've got the gist of it. I don't want to replay all that.
Do you remember I always mentioned that period of time when I was almost quitting games until God of War 2018 came out? This came out during that period. It was one of the few. It was one of the few around January, February when my malaise was at its highest that hit, and it felt very resonant around that period of my life that I literally cried playing that game because like for real. Celeste is so special. I haven't played it again because the rawness of like the message that he hit me with at the time has been one that I haven't wanted to revisit. But what a great game to do that in a platformer. Can't wait to hear more about it. Dune Awakening. This was actually announced last year. This was the MMO. The MMO that's gonna come to consoles and PC for based on Dune. And we finally got to look at the gameplay a little bit.
Is this the strategy game?
No, this is actually an actual MMO where it's like in third person. And no date yet for this, but you can sign up for the beta. The thing is that they confirmed console versions for this. And actually, no, this was announced earlier this year at Keighley's.
It was the cinematic only thing.
Yes, at ONL, at Opening Night Light and Gamescom. So they gave us a look at gameplay, and now we got a sign up for betas. The Forspoken demo was announced and released around that time. And Paul, I forgot that we didn't talk about this damn demo.
I guess that's a really telling thing that we didn't even think to include the demo in our what we've been playing.
I'll just say this. This is one of the worst demos I've ever played. In a way that it has made me... a game that I was relatively excited has kind of like deflated a lot of my excitement for it, that since we're so soon that is coming, even though I feel it has some good stuff in it, the magic system and the combat, I feel it has some cool style. The world I found very bland, especially the section where they dropped us in. At least when I know you play games on your monitor, so you didn't have HDR on. The HDR in my game was broken. Absolutely broken. I just saw the image. It was like this white ash image.
Was white and red, and that was it. And I wouldn't have believed you if you hadn't sent me a picture of it, because I was like, it looked fine for me. And it's really, I'm definitely not as negative on it as you were. And I'm glad that you had held off your opinion on it until I played it. It wasn't a long one either. It was like maybe 20-30 minutes. It's all it took for me to really finish and thank you for playing kind of thing. And it's funny because my track record with demos is so very different from all of this that I was like, oh, well, I just want to get this off my console now. I didn't hate it. The magic was really cool. It was surprisingly hard to aim things sometimes.
Like with the grappling hook and all that?
Yeah, with the grapple, that's a whole nother thing where they just did not explain an entire method of traversal for you. So you just had to kind of trial and error it, and the weird limitation for being able to use it as well. Just did not resonate with me. Once again, I don't like the main character at all.
The dialogue, because I was actually hearing the dialogue that she was having with her like wrist thing. It was insufferable. It was like that was like the so try hard, like in a way. I'm like, why? You're making Stranger of Paradise seeming like a masterpiece of writing. Stranger of Paradise. So
it's funny because I think that's got to be one of the reasons I didn't hate it as much, is because I had my headset around my neck. So I was like kind of hearing the action moments, and I didn't hear the dialogue all that much.
You just shielded yourself from a bunch of stuff.
I must have shielded myself really well, because now I'm like, well, it's there, and maybe I'll want to play it, but with everything else going on, I'm like, would I be willing to wait?
So here's the thing, like, because Forspoken is one of the first things that's coming out next year. Because this was supposed to come out in October this year before it got like a second delay. After it was supposed to come out in May of this year. Sorry. I'm already thinking of 2023. We're still in 2022. So if you look at the image of what we're looking at, the thread from Warrior 64, when you look at that, that still looks awesome. That's not like what was conveyed to me in the demo. And to me, this has become now a game that I really want to hear from the people that are gonna will have played the whole thing. And I would hope that they fix the HDR also, because that really ruined a lot of my enjoyment out of that game, like, because it just didn't look right, at least from the demo. But again, and again, like, it didn't help that this was one of the few times Square Enix did a demo that just dropped you in, no context, into a bunch of stuff and trying to barely like explain you a few of the mechanics. The UI was a little messy, and it didn't have any way for you to transfer any progress after they had been the bastion of the demo that transferred progress. That's what helped with like Stranger of Paradise and Valkyrie Elysium for me. Games that were ultimately mid, and I still enjoy, but that helped a lot because it's like I started and I found enjoyment and cool, like I'll continue my progress. I don't know why they didn't do this for this one, a game that they have been pushing a lot. So
It's because I think the for those other games, the game start was literally enough that you can make a demo out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But this one was very much like there's clearly going to be stuff before she gets her powers
Mm-hmm.
that they don't want you to have to play through to get to the demo. So to give you credit for things that you aren't going to be able to get access to is probably going to be kind of hard to balance in. But I don't really hate it because it also only took like 20-30 minutes to play, so then I'm like, I'm probably just gonna get through that very quickly anyway.
To me it was like I was more excited coming into this one, so you probably came in with a little bit more indifference.
On the fence at the worst. On the best is like, yeah, it looks like it's gonna be some fun action, and I'm not gonna pay attention at all for the story.
Yeah. I think my thing was that this was another game that I committed to review to SG. So
that's probably gonna affect you a lot, and I think you're gonna really need to talk yourself back into it to really enjoy yourself, because I know you're probably like, I don't want to destroy this game, but if I go into it as I am, I'm gonna destroy this game.
That's why I want to just like chalk this up to just demo problems. That's what I'm trying, but it's just that this particular demo, after a year where I've been playing many demos that surprised me, this felt shocking to me. That I was like, man, I thought I was gonna be more into this. And it's not saying that there was anything like that all of it was bad. I did enjoy the combat a little bit. It's just that a lot of that was surrounding it with how it was presented here just didn't do it for me. So it did like if they wanted me to feel excited to finally purchase this thing in a month, it didn't work. So but we'll see. Like if the reviews are great, because remember we were going into String Year Paradise, and when the reviews were like shockingly positive, that's how we dove in, and the arrangement helps a little bit. So we'll see. This one though was like expected and unexpected in a way.
Very, very the opposite of everything that we got to watch from Forspoken.
Yeah, I was like, I had quite an emotional reaction to seeing Death Stranding come back. With Death Stranding 2, especially the Troy Baker the Troy Baker version of the Vivi theme.
Yeah,
like he did it so much better than the original. I'll just throw it out there.
Well,
and worked so well in the context of this trailer.
And Mads Mikkelsen is definitely not a singer at all.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think they're just improving on this whole weird world that they've created, and I think the best part with the very end going like something to the effect of, was it a mistake to be connected or something like that, where like the whole time I thought that's what the first game was building to, because you were like, okay, we're connecting the world, cool, but also we're connecting it on this weird spectral internet that connects to the afterlife. Guys, that sounds like a bad idea. And I thought the whole like, when the next shoe drops, is that, oh, this is actually a terrible idea, oh my gosh, you got to get back to the front of the eastern part of the country or something. And now I see why they didn't, is because that was the whole point of this next game. And
which everyone thought it was always going to be a one and done. I would have been fine with that, but the fact that it's continuing, it's making me like, because I totally like watching this trailer, then analyzing it by myself, I was like, I didn't realize that how much I really do care about like how important Death Stranding was for gaming. Like, you don't get games like this unique and weird in the AAA space, especially now that we're 3 years removed and we've seen everything else. Tell me, have you played anything like Death Stranding? No, right? No. Exactly. And especially that was a game that it's been funny seeing how like time has treated that first game. Like, a lot of people like really reconnected with it when it came out on PS5, especially in the context of how it predicted the world and how that prediction came so true so soon after it came out.
And his Kojima's reaction to it, which is actually listed later on here as well, saying that he rewrote the entire thing because of the pandemic, because he was afraid that he would predict the future again. So that goes to tell me that that's a really bad thing of like, how bad would stuff have gotten in this game before he decided to remake? He finally caught on. He's like, am I creating this world by writing all of these things?
That's the thing, like, we can blame him in a way for the kind of social media society we have now, because he predicted it in 2001.
But couldn't, like, I almost feel like he'd put the biggest optimistic spin on such a terrible thing happening, because the whole point of the game is to connect and help people
Oh yeah.
without fear of all that. Is like, it could have been worse, Kojima. I'll give you
No,
a pass this
yes,
time.
but and that's kind of like the ironic, like thematic, the thematic irony of that Stranding, because
Right.
like the world has been completely destroyed, but it's about kind of like the pursuit of reconnection and positivity that felt so like corny in 2019 and then felt so endearing and vital in 2020 and 2021. And I'm just glad that he has another one of this in him. And this trailer just shows that no one does game trailers like Kojima. Like no one does, like, and especially the character design. Like, dude with the guitar, like with the guitar and the intestines coming, which is clearly that's the Troy Baker character. Who we don't know if he's Higgs, like
Right.
like a remnant of Higgs, or if he's just another one. But that's definitely Troy Baker. And just like that scene where like the BB theme like mixes when he plays the guitar, and the things like react behind him, is like just Kojima just knows how to do like perfect imagery, just like in ways that you would never expect. And
Yeah.
when will this come out? I don't know, but God, when I tell you about most
Take
anticipated
your
PS5
time.
games, this guy, now that God of War Ragnarok is on, this one skyrocketed. Like, there's nothing like the anticipation of a Kojima game. And you know what's the best part? Finally, go fuck yourself, Blue Box Game Studios. Now, like all of that is finally over. Like, anyone that was still holding on, like absolutely holding on to, like, there's conspiracy theories, like got the two blows this year of the Silent Hill like showcase that announced all those games with those guys, no one inside, and now this, like, now finally those guys are forever scammers. We can forever we can forever forget they ever existed, because now we have it official. Like,
I hope something terrible happens to that whole group.
Yeah.
That somehow, like, Sony, I still get caught up by the fact they got something on Sony's time, essentially. They got one over on them. But yeah.
And I mentioned in that episode where I went on that meltdown, that it was like Sony was like showed a level of incompetence I didn't think they had, letting that happen under them, like with like almost official, kind of like them allowing an official app. Felt like that's just, did you just put that? It was like that passed through them and they put it there. So, but I'm just glad that Stranding 2 is like, it's official. Norman Reedus, I mentioned that he was working on it, kind of like in a Brazil movie podcast he did around this time last year. I remember it actually was when you were sheltering for Hurricane Ida. Me and Zach read the story that was coming. So I'm glad that it's now official. Now we know all the little teasers. Who am I? What is I? Or all that. It was for this.
Yeah.
And Elle Fanning not inside here. So I wonder. My theory is that Elle Fanning is Lou.
Yeah. I have a feeling they're gonna continue pushing things further along in the timeline of Lou's story, and I really hope that we end up like playing as her, or
it's a sequel. It's a Hideo Kojima sequel, Paul.
They could pull one of those,
Yeah.
like, oh, are you gonna play as the legendary Sam Porter Bridges? No.
Yeah.
But we'll see, I guess. I just realized we're like halfway through this.
Yeah.
There's so many things.
Yeah, that's why I told you we're only going to talk about Game Awards stuff, because there was nothing else happening other than the FTC suing Microsoft. We don't need to talk about that.
And yet water is wet and the world continues to spin. So.
Yes, but then the Death Stranding 2 trailer was followed up by something called Immortals of Avium, which is coming from EA Originals. The worst trailer of this show, I tell you, because it didn't tell me anything. Like, it was like, what is this? We just know it's coming. So bad way to present it. We just know it exists. Tekken 8 was finally shown, like, with full gameplay, not just like the concept art trailer that we got on the State of Play from September. It absolutely looks great, like closer to that concept that we saw when it was revealed.
Yeah. With
the Unreal Engine 5 and all that. No, there is no release date yet, so that's still incoming. We know that it would have been cool the same year that Street Fighter 6 is coming out. That could have come out, but I'd be fine with Street Fighter 6 being the fighting game next year and this coming in 2024.
I feel like they might try to push that for
Hmm.
like holiday time, but I feel like it would do better to wait
Yeah.
till next year. Or
Now,
between next-
this Nightingale game was shown last year. It's like the survival game with like some Mary Poppins things looking, or it's kind of like very whimsical fairy tale-ish looks
Yeah.
to it. This is made by people that used to work at BioWare that then got acquired by Tencent around this time last year after they had announced this game. Did it have a release date on this? No, it only had a. It just showed again. This was another. It's like they showed it last year. They showed it again this year. It's like if you cared about.
That's one of the level infinite ones as well. So keep your red flags up, everyone.
Exactly. So it was like, yeah, if you like how it looks, I mean, I know some people will love that kind of like style mashup, and some people really love survival games. Remnant 2, Paul, the sequel to Remnant from the Ashes, that was like a surprise drop. I was like, wait, what? A sequel to that? That's crazy. No release it, but it was just announced, and then they gave a bigger story trailer for Baldur's Gate 3. Done by Larian Studios. That's like a very highly anticipated game for RPG communities, and that's coming to PC on August 23rd. It's been on early access for 4 years, so it is looking mighty impressive for that kind of game, and also very Dragon Agey. I was actually shocked. That was like I
It
saw.
kind of looks like how Dragon Age is supposed to look if they made another one after all these years.
Specifically Dragon Age Inquisition. Then then this game called Wayfinder. This was like an online MMO action RPG with an interesting partner was announced, and that partner was PlayStation. This definitely looks like one of those like live service games that they promised that they were coming. And that's the thing. If this is gonna fill up like the list of games that they said they want live service to be, and it means that first party Sony is not working on that, I'll take it. This is a fine enough compromise. If this is how they're gonna fill up their live service quota, have it this way. I didn't care at all about this. The art style, especially like when I saw the art style, it looks so generic. So, but that's just live service stuff. Then the Fire Emblem Engage DLC stuff was announced. I don't care about Fire Emblem.
Funny
Engage.
because I didn't even know that came out.
No, that's the thing. The game's not out.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
They
so
just
that's not
announced.
great.
They just announced. That's the game that's coming out early next year.
So it's just okay. Got it.
They just basically got ahead and be like, "Hey, there's gonna be DLC, and it's gonna be launching around this time." Then that games company Sky. That game company was the guys that made Journey, and also Flower and Flow. They had made this game that has been on mobile for forever, and they recently launched it for free on console. And they announced that they were doing like a live concert inside of it. I don't know exactly what Sky is. I just know that game company has been like working on this game over the last 10 years almost, since they left Journey, like in 2012. So
It certainly looks like Journey.
yeah, they definitely have the style. Since it's free, I'm gonna like dabble, just see what it is. So then they brought in like Halsey, which would have been like a dream girl edgy music for you in your teenage years, because that's certainly who she is nowadays. They brought her because apparently she's voicing Lilith in Diablo 4,
Which is the main creepy
villain
chick.
Yeah, for the new Diablo.
She's got the voice for it, so power to her.
Yeah, and I'll say this, like Blizzard doesn't miss when it comes to those trailers. Their trailers just go
props where
so
they
hard.
Deserve it, because that looks like a freaking metal album music video. The way there was like the crazy paladins just stabbing through the hordes of demons, an angel with like tendrils of white lightning for wings, just so cool looking. I have to give it to him for that one.
Yeah, I tell you, someone that really likes Diablo 3 and enjoyed delving into Diablo 2 Resurrection, not fully because it had some old stuff that kept me from like really fully engaging, because they decided to keep it as is, just remaster the graphics to look really cool modernly.
Yeah.
This coming on June 6th, 2023. I am so excited for that. It's like, because now it's like my summer's complete this time. Finally, like my summer now feels like it's gonna not be backlog year like it was this past year. Yeah, and coming way sooner than I expected, I'll say. I would have expected this to come much later. Didn't know it was this close. So, and now especially like one bittersweet thing here is that this would have come out around the time that Microsoft would have finalized their deal with Activision Blizzard if it went through. Now that they got sued, that thing's gonna get
really
pushed.
Think that was gonna be over by April?
They said that by June 2023 was gonna be over. That was the projected time when they announced the acquisition.
I feel like that's overly optimistic for them.
No, that actually was like in the more pessimistic side. And now it's even worse because now that they got sued, that thing's gonna be pushed farther. So people were hoping they were gonna get this game on Game Pass. So once they owned it, but who knows? Hey, at least it's like it's coming there. Like the previews for this game came out actually the day before this. Very positive preview coverage for this. So we'll see. And then they finally announced that Horizon Forbidden West, a game that got snuffed, just like Horizon Zero Dawn in the last time it was in the Game Awards, where they won nothing.
Again.
It's they would have won if they had come out in 2021. Just saying. Their DLC, it's coming on April 19th, The Burning Shores, where you're gonna go to the city of Los Angeles when the end of that game took you to San Francisco, so you're going all the way south. And the notable thing is that this DLC is only on PS5, so no PS4. If you're on PS4, you're out of luck. Kind of like with the Cyberpunk DLC, that's only on next gen. I'm very excited to dive in back. It's like this is a game I really, really, really liked. It's just in the year that it came out, of course, it was gonna get like undershadowed like it was last time.
And it breaks my heart to admit that for me there's just better things to play than to go back to Horizon Forbidden West or even for Burning Shores. By this point there'll be so many other things to play by that point.
I'll say that it did right now because I looked at the calendar. Only Dead Island 2 is in April.
That's true. I didn't actually comment on that because there was like not a whole lot in April, but I just felt like because of all the stuff from February and March, that was going to be like my breather before May and June hit, which both had really crazy bangers in them. So yeah.
If this follows the Frozen Wilds DLC template, it's not going to be that long. It's going to be a nice way to revisit Horizon for me. And I know it's just not gonna be that expensive either, just based on how it was the other time. I feel like this is like, again, Horizon's always gonna be a great series that will always be overshadowed by when it comes out. They had their perfect spot. Had this come out in 2021, this cleans out Game of the Year, not even close. Like that's
it's the monkey's paw. They made a deal where they said, all right, you're gonna get a lot of acclaim and you're gonna get commercial success and none of the acclaim for it. People are gonna forget parts of your game because everything else will always come out right before or right after.
And that's the thing, it's a really great game, especially so much better than the original in everything but story. So then a Blue Protocol, this game that is coming from Bandai Namco with an association with Amazon Games that looks just like Tales of Arise and a bunch of their Tales games.
It looks like it plays way better too.
It's gonna be apparently this is like their play at trying to fight Genshin Impact. I've heard. That's why it's like Amazon got involved, because it's like more MMO-ish. The fact that it has
there was a reason Amazon signed on for that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Also, this is gonna be Amazon's first console game. They haven't done a console game yet. They have only been on PC. It looked interesting, but it's a wait and see thing. So they showed more Remnant because Remnant apparently wasn't a commercial first. So they like doubled back and showed a little bit more gameplay. So I wonder if they jumped the gun, but we already talked about Remnant 2, the sequel to Remnant of the Ashes. Transformers Reactivate. I was like shocked because it didn't look like a Transformers game until like it tells you it was, and then they mentioned there's gonna be like a co-op action adventure multiplayer game. Definitely more of a wait and see, but I'm just glad that there's Transformers games happening outside Activision. So
it's just a shame it's VR.
Then Company of Heroes 3, which came to PC. I don't know if it was earlier this year or last year. I know it just happened recently on PC, coming to consoles in 2023. And they showed us a clip of the Super Mario movie. Then obviously, just a little tangent that Jeff Keighley had a moment where he talked with Monster from Sesame Street, Animal from was it Sesame Street or Muppets?
Yeah, it's the Muppets really.
Yeah, from and that was to present the best music more. I'll say that bit worked for me. It was like
Yeah. Was it
Kojima. Yeah.
Oh man. And then he talked about Elden Ring and how his favorite boss was Millennia.
Malenia.
That was great.
Actually, like Keely loves his Muppets because he showed up in the Muppets Halloween thing. I think it was last year.
Really?
Yeah, Keely showed up there. It was so funny that he always like flaunts that Muppet connection whenever he goes. Like the Game Awards is Jeff Keighley's vanity project. I tell you. That's why him and Kojima are like so besties. So then a new announcement, a new game from Don't Nod and Focus Entertainment. Don't Nod, the guys that made Life is Strange and Vampire. They announced a new action RPG called Vanishers: Ghosts of New Eden that's coming end of 2023. So that's definitely gonna get delayed. So unless it actually does come out.
Much to say about it. Like, it looked cool. It's a great concept, especially
no gameplay. There was like no gameplay shown, so it was just an idea for.
Technically, they showed the gameplay right at the end, but that was like a 3-second burst, and that was.
Oh yeah, I forgot, but it was like so quick. It was like an over-the-shoulder thing.
Yeah, but like it is.
I'll say they do interesting stuff. Like Life is Strange and Vampires, like not the best games, but they're very interesting games, and
I think
people that play it
is going to be really good.
Oh yeah, that's always been strong for them, even especially Life is Strange 2. Then they showed a little bit more gameplay of Warhammer Space Marine 2 that I saw a lot of people raving online. I was like, oh, this looks even better than I was expecting. That's also 20.
That was that like shovelware 360 game that was actually really good, but nobody knew about. I didn't play it, but I like 10 years later watched somebody play it and was like, oh, that looks really fun. Oh crap, because it's like it got real Gears of War feel to it. Oh man, but anyway, I hope it's good.
Yeah, and then they showed up this game called Meteor Maker that comes out on April 4th, 2023. It looked like some robot ninja stuff. I don't know if you saw like some of the images.
We saw the reveal trailer back forever ago.
And I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember seeing it. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, this is the one that we were talking about how it's basically the FOB system from Metal Gear Solid 5, but turned into an entire game. Is this one moment where your memory's failed you and mine hasn't?
Yeah.
Yes. Finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
Now I have to go look at. Now I have to look back at the shows we've done about like Keely stuff, just because
it's either in that or in our random chats. But yeah, basically we said
if it was in random chats, I definitely am not gonna remember much of that because I do remember a bunch of the stuff we do in shows.
I remembered how cool the concept sounded because it was like, okay, the whole game is you're building a base to defend, but also you're trying to invade other bases. So it was in our chat. It was in our chat, not in podcast. So yeah. Right. So that's why it's like, all right, that's kind of cool idea, but also it's really gonna have to break down in that like, how's the gameplay look really gonna look?
I assume they're gonna definitely do more gameplay. That's leading into its April 4th release.
There's a beta that you can sign up for on the website apparently.
Yeah. When does that beta? Who knows? Crash Bandicoot came back as a CTR again, but not Crash Team Racing. Now it's called Crash Team Rumble, a 4v4 like multiplayer versus game that I tell you, as a big Crash fan, did nothing for me. I'm just glad that Crash is still alive. That's my own thing.
Yeah, and I've realized there's a point and a reason for just putting the IP in front of a new generation so that people can remember it, even if the game's not necessarily great. If you can get away with just, hey, you remember Crash Team Racing or you Crash Team Rumble, and people from 2 different decades can actually talk about it.
Yeah, it's like Crash Bandicoot 4. It's about time. It's so darn good. It has the same visual style, so it definitely made me want to go back to it. Like, because I only finished the PS4 version, did never finish the PS5 version. So, and it was on PS Plus for everyone that redeemed it when it was available in that month. Really cool platformer. They gave us a new look at the Lords of the Fallen, the unofficial, like kind of like reimagined of Lords of the Fallen. I'll tell you, here is why I went back to Bloodborne.
Oh, so the visuals from this made you go back?
Yeah, that and the win. That and the big win was like, ooh, that kind of got me in the Bloodborne vibe. I already had it installed, so.
I will say, because I wasn't big on Lords of the Fallen.
Me neither. This is a new studio doing it. This is like, that's why this is like a complete reimagining. Not called Lords of the Fallen 2. That got canceled.
And it just looks great. I have to admit.
Yeah. Hopefully they learn the right lessons.
Yeah,
That's always.
and then speaking of weird stuff.
Yeah. This is the one that I tell you, the skid that opened this game kind of caused me a little bit of physical pain with Michael Madsen being put on the on stage with like some bodyguards. I think Danny Glover was.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay.
Yeah. So because they brought him in to introduce this game, and I'll say this: just the fact that it has all this weird cast for this game that includes Michael Madsen, Kim Basinger, Damien Poitier, Danny Trejo, Chuck Norris, and Michael Rooker in this they called it this is like a not quite open world, or maybe it was, I don't know, but it was like it's a crime game called Crime Boss. That's like on first person that looked very similar to Payday the Heist for me.
I kept thinking it reminded me. So yeah, the cutscenes and the gameplay reminded me of Payday. But the feel made me think of like those weird rip-off Facebook games that were all focused on mafias for a while. There's something about it that's just like, oh, this just feels wrong. But it looks funny enough, and like they're in on the joke enough that maybe it's gonna end up being funny.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like the Far Cry method lately. We're gonna throw some random celebrities in here and hope that their acting skills just kind of carry.
This is definitely gonna carry. Like the thing that's gonna carry is having this all-star cast. That's what's gonna carry it. It looks like it's gonna be like one of those midway style games from like old school like PS2 era that would have.
I have to give them credits then, because we talk about how we need these kind of games. So you know what? I'm all for it. Yeah.
We'll see when
I'm gonna step back then.
Yeah, it says it's coming soon. It didn't have like a release date. Maybe it's next year. See if it's coming soon. So then we got the official look at Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, the DLC for Cyberpunk that it's definitely gonna make me finally dive deep into that game. Like not knowing that this is coming, it feels like the right time to do that, especially because I enjoy the PS5 version of that game. It's great. And they announced that Idris Elba it's also gonna be in or Idris Elba, I don't know what.
I think it's Idris technically, but the fact that it's gonna have like real cutscenes, it looks like it's like a whole storyline within it, all new regions, set, and I mean,
and more importantly, no tie, kind of like the Horizon DLC, no ties to last gen.
Right
now, it's being developed with like the higher end machines, like it always should have been. So now that the Cyberpunk like IP has been in a resurgence, like both with the next gen version now / current gen version being really good, and the Edge Runners creating such a synergy to bring people back to that game, and now this DLC, I feel Cyberpunk is finally like in the road to redemption. The biggest pop for this show, and to me it's hilarious because it's just more a pop to how strong of a brand the studio is now, that they can actually pop for a game that years ago people didn't really give a crap about. It was Armored Core 6, the Fires of Rubicon. The trailer was incredible. I tell you, just visually, it's like you can definitely tell. It's like they made an interview saying that this game is not gonna have Dark Souls stuff in it. It's gonna try to be more old school Armored Core.
And like all of the articles were like, "We promise it's not gonna be just like Soulsborne, guys."
Yeah, the thing is that, but here's my thing. Like, I feel like that is so ingrained into their mindset that I feel a lot of have they started building games from like visual, like in visual style and epicness and all that. That still translates. The way that they presented this is like way more epic than I ever than I would ever think of Armored Core.
Absolutely. I only barely knew a little bit about the concept of Armored Core because I
played them. I played 4 back in 2007.
Okay.
I rented it on PS3.
It's funny to read that thing that we talked about actually, where apparently 4 is like wildly hated by a lot of people for a while. But anyway.
And because it was like, it's so funny because that was Hidetaka Miyazaki's first directorial debut. Like, even though he worked at From Software before, when he played Ico, he got inspired into game design. That's when he joined From Software. Armored Core 4 is considered like the first outlier of what Armored Core used to be, so that's why it was hated and now it's so beloved.
Right, and it's it's such a strong look to it
Mhm.
from all of these shots. Just the
The
feel.
fact
I
they
think
the fact they use the word cinder also, I'm like, as soon as I saw when it says cinder, it's like, this is a From Software thing. This is totally from Software. Because who else in gaming uses the words Lords of Cinder?
yeah,
Come on.
not often.
Yeah.
But man, just I'm fully sold out for this because I love mech games
Hmm.
and there's just none out there anymore
Hmm.
unless you have like a big beefy PC and a full dive gear set to have all your buttons
That,
for
that's
everything.
what I
It's
was
like,
telling. That's what I was telling Zach, because Zach is totally buying this. From Zach, I told him, I was like, this is coming at the right time in the market. Where are the
yeah,
mech games? There's barely any. Now it's coming back now with the clout of From Software. Now From Software is the 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 studio. It's
right.
like, look, when it was cool the way they presented this trailer, because you could hear the audience reactions also in the live stream of these trailers.
I really
As soon
appreciate
as
that.
soon as the From Software logo just popped,
Everyone went,
it's
oh.
great. Yeah. And that's the thing. There's gonna be so many bandwagoners that are gonna play this just because it's From Software. That's what I find funny, and I don't care, because I really want to see now the post Dark Souls / post Elden Ring like studio, and now is so highly renowned in quality, to go back to their original like big series.
Yeah.
That was a little bit
I
more niche.
I hope that this is like a new renaissance for both the series and for mech games in general, because now people are going to be like, wait, that sold really well. And that was mech, so we're going to make a mech game next.
Mhm.
And then you're going to get a bunch of like, okay, but then also some really good mech games, hopefully. And it's just the style of people copying people to make new things in the end is just, I hope it keeps going for this.
If people haven't seen this yet, like, they should go to the Warrior 64 and look for Armored Core 6 and get it this direct feed shots. So many cool like pictures of just
That's
this
literally what I'm
trailer.
looking at right now. Each of those is a wallpaper, and man, am I set for it! I'm ready. But
And
then
I
the
hope,
last thing,
yeah. And the last thing that I was like, it could only have ended in one way, which was finally getting the release date for Final Fantasy 16. And the last
what
two
a trailer!
yeah, the last two trailers are this, the one that came out in October and this one, because the October one dropped randomly, and now this one. Woo! This is a big game, I tell you. I cannot wait for Final Fantasy 16.
What a freaking trailer! I keep saying it, but like,
Mhm.
I have said on record that I did not like some of the past ones. I think the first one I didn't like as much.
Because you
Whichever
were watching it in 480p resolution that one time where we were
Right.
live reacting to a live.
That was one. I also still didn't really like the UI, which I feel like they fixed since then. They kind of didn't show it here as much, but it just felt way better in look. And now that I understand why the summons are a focus, because it's not just the summons, it is like each one has like an avatar in the real world as a person, and they can go Super Saiyan into that summon. And now I'm like, tell me more, please. That's creative and interesting. And how like one of like I think the main character is one of those people, and they're going
The
to
main
be
character is
dueling-
Ifrit.
Right. But then there was one where you were dueling another Ifrit in that trailer. So I'm like, I don't even know what's going on, but like all of that's really cool. All these characters are really cool. How it's gonna span a certain amount of time, because it starts off when he's young, and it's like then it cuts to him being older with.
And now confirmed, M for mature. The first the first official mainline Final Fantasy game rated M.
Yeah. With hate crimes apparently. That was a weird thing, but and also their justification for why nobody is anything less than vaguely Asian and doesn't have any multicultural attributes is because they're like, oh, because that's not how the world was. And,
Yeah,
like, they said something really
yeah,
dumb.
to do that in a fantasy game. But that's the thing, like,
Yeah.
I personally don't really give a crap about that. That's just me, because it's
I
like,
used to not. Now it bothers me a little more, but hopefully it's like the game is good enough that it doesn't. Really...
yeah, I care. I really care more about a game being good than if it's like being if it's like then representing. Especially, and I say that as a Latino. It's like to me, it's like representation is really, especially like for example when a game does it really well, like Spider-Man Miles Morales, how excellent it represented Puerto Rican culture there. Yeah. The thing is that to me that's just like, it's kind of like the icing on the cake, but I care about the cake. If the cake is good and you ice that, it's like I don't care either way or not if like representation is put there or not. I just say sometimes when they ask them specifically, like some journalists specifically probe this question to get like a reaction out of
kind of
that's
true.
That's like my only problem with it because I don't see, like, I go into a bunch of circles, so I don't see a lot of people are like, "What my black man? What my Asian guy?" Or like I don't feel that's like what people really care about. It's just a select few that really make that their whole identity. To me personally, but hey, to each their own. I'll say this trailer looked fantastic. It coming out in June as promised during summer. So it's like,
that's gonna be a really good meaty game to have for the middle of the year.
Dude, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on May 12th, Suicide Squad on May 26th, Street Fighter 6 on June 2nd, Diablo 4 on June 6th, and Final Fantasy 16 on June 22nd. This is what I'm talking about. That is a summer. That is a hell of a summer. Not just of, okay, it's just there because, no, these are bangers. Or at least it's like just based on pedigree. These are you know that these are big ones to keep an eye on. So will any of these be bad? I actually doubt it, but
I don't think
I'd be legit shocked if one of them is, personally.
I could see some, like maybe Suicide Squad. I know that
that's the one. That's from all of those.
Yeah.
That could be one, especially because it's like this is Rocksteady coming out 8 years after Arkham Knight. It's been a while, so
I could see Crash Team Rumble kind of sucking.
I'm talking about the June ones. I'm not talking.
Okay, sorry.
No, I know a bunch of these games. Not all of them are going to be great. I'm just talking about the games that are coming out in May 2023 to June 2023. That Crash game I think is going to suck personally, because that's not what I want out of Crash. But that's not in those 2 months. May and June are insane, and I'm glad because it's like we're getting those big games around the time where we're then gonna get E3. And then the next Summer Game Fest to prepare us for the rest of the year.
Next thing to look for.
And we saw that there's wish lists for Spider-Man 2 now available. Yeah. And a writer just put out like that they're aiming for fall 2023 for Spider-Man 2. So I tell you, 2023 is gonna be one. It's gonna be one for the ages if all of them hit.
Oh, if they hit, even if like half of them hit, that's a great year, I would say.
I feel like just having 6 months, because that's the thing. I think 2022 had like 4 really great months. These already feels like it's gonna have 5 or 6. That already makes 2023 just much better year. Like we're gonna be hitting constantly. No, we're not gonna have to default to backlogs. Because that's the thing. Like I love a bunch of stuff that happened around Elden Ring. Like I mentioned, is like how many games we bought around that time we haven't even finished, Paul. Around the Elden Ring time. That's why I always say like, even the way we get like some GOAT bangers, that doesn't make like an entire great year. Like, so, but man, I can't wait. We're definitely gonna talk about that in the next episode when we look back at the year. But reveals wise, really great show. Obviously, we already mentioned the Bill Clinton thing happened after the game of the year. So, oh man, what a way to end that show. But I tell you, just on the announcements alone, it's like I feel like now we're at the time and period where this was gonna be the year where we were gonna feel the COVID of it all. 2023 is finally moving away from that. It's fun to feel excited about games coming out again. And it really.
It's been a minute, and I kind of forgot what that felt like. Mm-hmm. But when I started really getting hyped up once I tuned in, I'm so glad I decided to tune in while I was trying to pack for leaving. Because at first I thought, I was like, am I just gonna waste my time while I hear?
Look, after last year's show that wasted so much time after an initial strong start, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
But Jeff Keighley did good. He's like, I appreciate that he takes criticism with stride. He absolutely does. And I dragged Summer Game Fest 2022 through the calls, and then ONL took good feedback out of that, and ONL was really great. Obviously helped by a better time to hit with the release dates, and I feel now he's gonna be riding a better wave. And with next year E3 coming back officially and him still doing that, I feel a lot of people will want to show up for that.
I think so, especially after the success of this. Like you can't say that he's just full of hot air now.
No, not at all. And he's only as good as the content that he's given.
Which is true. He really tries his best to gather as much as he can. Sometimes he just gets screwed over, but
And that's why I don't fully blame him for the Summer Game Fest in a way, because that was just a reality check. The thing is that you also have to make the executive decision of, if you know that you're gonna have content, you're gonna put out a show, and he still put out a show.
right.
So the thing, I think sometimes it's good to know when, if you have the goods, definitely put them out. If you don't have the goods, don't try to force it. I think that's something that some people should really learn. And look, we went an entire year without a PlayStation showcase, Paul. That's insane. An entire year.
I don't even understand it, but I guess good for them. Whatever they're doing, they think they're winning. So,
And that's what sucks. PlayStation technically is, even though I hate saying that,
yeah.
because it's like something that I'm gonna try to elaborate for next week. Is like, I never seen a company have such a lopsided year where they had such an incredible year of just releasing games, especially one that won 6 awards this year. But the Optic game got screwed so badly that no one considers this a great year for them. Just imagine. It's like,
yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
I can't really wrap my head around any of it.
But we're definitely gonna talk more about that when we do your wrap up in the next episode. So
That's a whole nother
so
conversation.
so that wraps up our look at the Game Awards stuff. That basically filled up our show, like I knew it would. For like the games that are coming out like for next week, the final 2 games, Paul. Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion comes to PlayStation 4 on December 20th, and Valkyrie Profile Lenneth comes to PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4 on December 22nd. And you get that if you for free if you got the deluxe edition of Elysium earlier this year. And that puts a cap on 2022, Paul. That's crazy. It's like
That's like that.
What a year. That's all I'll say. But we'll definitely talk about more of that in the next episode.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, let's focus on that.
where can people find you, Paul?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter. That's where I break games and draw things. Where can they find you?
They can find me at A_Segovia on Twitter, at A Segovia on Hive, at Alejandro Segovia 93 on Instagram. They can find some of whenever we stream. You can find me at twitch.tv/The Slayer Giant. And whenever I write, it's either gonna be in thecriticalcorner.com, my own website blog, or reviews over at seasongaming.com. Paul,
Yeah.
can't wait to not wait too long for us to wrap up the year. So go on break, and then just have pride on 50 episodes. I can't wait. Like
50 plus all of our reactions.
Plus all the reaction, plus the bonus episode of Microsoft Chooses Violence. So
Yeah.
that which happened earlier this year. So, but we're definitely gonna talk about it in the wrap up. So, Paul, see you later. Everyone else, stay safe. Holidays are coming soon. Hope you're having some great holiday plans. Be healthy. Don't do stupid stuff. Like, enjoy the holidays, and remember,
Press X.
to play.
Good night, everybody.
Hasta la vista, baby.